the bad people of the United States. What's the result? Culture of death, child trafficking, abortion, illegal gangs, drugs, death. Mexico and the United States, we are not just neighbors, we're brothers and sisters. We need to work together, and let's make Mexico and America great together again.
Let's send the world a message. We condemn the police state tactics of Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Lula da Silva, and Joe Biden.
I want to start by thanking Matt and Mercedes Schlapp and everyone at the American Conservative Union.
They say globalism comes to die at CPAC. I'm here to tell you that in El Salvador, it's already there.
An amazing time to be in this fight for freedom.
Eliminar la corrupción de la política, pero no nos vamos a rendir en volver a ser Argentina grande nuevamente.
Va a ser quién va a ganar y quién va a proteger a la familia. Esa es la batalla. Y ellos, al final del día, querían llegar a nuestros hijos para dividirnos. ¡Viva España! ¡Viva los Estados Unidos! ¡Viva Israel!
Vamos a ganar! Hey, it's Matt Schlapp with CPAC. You know, we've had a huge problem in this country with election fraud. But at CPAC, that's not a problem. Our only problem is getting each and every one of you to vote. So look at your badge. You have a number on that badge. And get your phone out and vote on all the issues that matter. And my guess is you probably like what Trump's doing as well. And we'll have the results for you very soon.
As I think it was President Reagan said, we're from the government. We're here to help.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
We're from the government. We're here to help.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a conversation. Please welcome Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, with Newsmax's Bob Finnerty.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Look at all the patriots gathered. This is great.
Fantastic.
About to make America great again for the next 4 years. We want to thank Matt and Mercedes Schlapp for putting this together. On behalf of Newsmax, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah.
As everyone just heard, Kash Patel. It's official. Murkowski and Collins voted against him. Mitch McConnell voted for him and announced that he's not going to run again in 2 years. I guess my question is, which one surprised you more today?
Well, I'm glad he did it, and I want to tip my hat to Leader Thune and the Senate Republicans. They're getting the job done. The Trump cabinet is being confirmed. We need them. President Trump needs his team in place, and I'm really grateful that they're moving as quickly as they are, and they're setting a good pace, and so far, so good.
So, Mr. Speaker, only twice in, I believe, 85 years has the president's party picked up seats in the midterm elections. But you are going to change that in 2 years.
We are. There's a lot of reasons for that. We're going to defy history, and we're going to grow the House majority in 2 years and not lose the majority. I think everybody recognizes President Trump needs 4 years and not 2. And if they took the majority back, they would try to impeach him, they would open the border wide, they would create all sorts of chaos. So we have to win, and we will, and let me tell you why. Because we have a very favorable landscape. Right now, as we're sitting here today, 13 House Democrats are sitting in districts that President Trump won pretty handily. That's right. There's more than 20 districts that President Trump came within 5 points of winning. So we've got a great landscape to go out and play offense, not defense, but offense, to flip those seats into our column. And on top of that, we had an historic demographic shift in the election cycle. We all saw it happen. We had a record number of Hispanic and Latino voters, Black and African American voters, Jewish voters, union workers, all these groups that had not traditionally been in the Republican Party, but on the sheer force of Donald Trump's persona, they came into the party, and they're going to be with us for quite some time, because now we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity, Rob, to demonstrate for these people that it truly is our conservative policies that are better for them, that leads to human flourishing. It's better for individuals, families, communities, states, and the nation as a whole. We do that, we'll hold this majority for quite some time.
Question I've wanted to ask you for a while. So before the election, Trump Force One, Donald Trump's personal plane, there was a photograph. I'm going to name you 4 people that were in this photograph. Kid Rock, RFK Jr., Elon Musk, Donald Trump, the 5th person, House Speaker Mike Johnson. Did you ever think that group would be together at 30,000 feet?
You left out Jelly Roll. I mean, it's a great group. We went to the UFC fight. It was at Madison Square Garden, and we did a round trip to Palm Beach, to South Florida, in the same night. So we arrived back at Palm Beach about 4:25 in the morning, and everybody you just named was up like it was the middle of the afternoon, man. It was a great, great event. But look, that's the power of President Trump. He brings together all sorts of people who would not otherwise be unified like that. And it's a great thing for the country. It's unifying for the country. And there's talent, and it's a motley crew sometimes, but in a beautiful way. And that's been one of the highlights of being speaker, is hanging out with that crew.
Absolutely. You fit right in.
Yeah.
You fit right in. Can you explain why the left and why so many Democrats are enraged at Donald Trump right now for trying to end 2 wars that he did not start?
I wish I could explain the Democrats. They're just enraged about everything. Think about it. Their policies and their parties are in totally disarray. They don't have a leader. They don't have a real vision forward. They don't know where they're going to head. The entire platform has been repudiated by the American people. The woke progressive nonsense has been stamped out, and so all they know to do is to lash out. I mean, think of it. They're opposing the ending of wars. They're opposing they're opposing the DOGE effort, right? What Elon and the team are doing is what Congress has not had the ability to do. They've cracked the code. They're inside the belly of the beast of the bureaucracy, and the algorithms are crawling through. That's right. They're exposing this massive fraud, waste, and abuse that we have not been able to uncover because the deep state has hidden it from us. This is a revolutionary kind of moment. It really is. And I told Elon in his office Monday before last, I said, you think of this like a scientist and a data analyst, and I think of it like a constitutional law attorney and a historian. Elon, what we're going to do here is bring back the founders' original intent for the federal government. Right? I mean, Rob, you know, you're studying history as well. The founders wanted a lean, small federal government. They wanted most of the power pushed down to the states, as you know. And they wanted the federal government to be closely monitored by the duly elected representatives of the people in Congress. The problem is, Congress has not been able to do that job because they've been hiding the evidence, hiding the ball. Elon's on the inside, and that's why the Democrats are so nervous. He is right over the target right now.
It's been remarkable to see the Department of Government Efficiency. That's what DOGE stands for. Department of Government Efficiency. And Democrats are almost in this un-American position right now of being against their primary mission, which is to save the American taxpayer money, which to me doesn't make any sense.
They like to spend the taxpayer's dollar. I don't think that's ever been.
They sure do.
They're for big government. That's what big government progressives do. They want the government to control every aspect of our lives. And the last 4 years, Biden-Harris administration, it was, regulations on steroids. And so now we have an opportunity to fix everything. We have a very ambitious, very aggressive legislative agenda because we have been given this opportunity by the voters to fix it. President Trump got 77 million popular votes, right? In the House, House Republicans got 74.8 million popular votes. That's the highest total we've ever got. Yeah, so we see it as a mandate to dial all that back and to fix it, and you're seeing that happen very aggressively. The president is over 300 executive actions already, and we're going to codify so much of what he's doing so that the next thing can't be
4 years. We did so during COVID. We did so during the Second World War. We did so during the Civil War. During the War of 1812, the White House was burned to the ground 3 months before James Madison was elected. How important is it for Ukraine to hold presidential elections?
Well, it's very important, of course, and
because they were canceled last spring.
That's right, and the president has pointed that out.
And they claim to be a democracy.
That's right. We need an end to the conflict, and what I've explained, I've done 2 panels at 2 different events this morning. I started at the Republican Governors Association, they asked me about this, and I went to the big business leaders, Fortune 500 executives there. They all want to know the same thing. What is President Trump doing there? I said, you've got to give him room to operate and do what he does. He's doing a level set, right? You've got to get both parties to come and bring about an end to this conflict, which will serve America's interest and everybody's interest around the world. But I think of it very much like a mediation or arbitration. If you're a lawyer, I'm a recovering lawyer, forgive me, I think of those terms. But when you start a mediation, you start an arbitration between 2 parties, you don't bring them into the room for that first meeting. You do it separately. So I think Zelensky complaining that he wasn't invited to the first meeting with Saudi Arabia and Russia is misplaced. I mean, what Trump's trying to do is do a level set, put the conditions in place for that real negotiation to happen, and we've got to allow him to do what he does. Remember, he wrote the art of the deal. He knows what he's doing.
Absolutely. If that level set takes, let's say, 3, 6 months, or it drags on, do you see another funding bill for the war in Ukraine?
Look, there's no appetite for that. What do you think? We have to bring it to an end, and I can tell you that our European allies understand the necessity of this as well. It's drug on too long. By some estimates, Russia's lost almost 700,000 troops, maybe more. The Ukrainians have suffered great losses. We have to bring an end to the conflict. President Trump is exactly right. It's time for it to end, and he is the brute force, I think, that can make that happen.
The president said that a percentage of DOGE savings could maybe go back to the American people in the form of what he called DOGE stimulus checks. Something like 20%. How would that work?
Well, look, I mean, politically that would be great for us, you know, you send everybody a check, but really we have to think of it, I think, in a...
That just got everybody's attention, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
That just had everybody look up all
I know.
Yep.
But if you think about our core principles, right, fiscal responsibility is what we do as conservatives. That's our brand. And we have a $36 trillion federal debt. We have a giant deficit that we're contending with. I think we need to pay down the credit card, right? That's what I think.
Mr. Speaker, we keep hearing about this one big, beautiful bill. Tell me how big, how beautiful?
Oh, it's going to be so big. I shouldn't do it that way. So the beauty of reconciliation, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on the procedure, but normally you need a 60-vote threshold in the Senate to do anything of substance, but budget reconciliation is the one exception to the process where you only need 51 votes in the Senate, a bare majority. So we're going to use this reconciliation process to achieve most of the priorities that we ran on in the election cycle, and that President Trump, that's right. So I could be here a long time listing all those things, but clearly it's the most important interest of the country. We're going to secure that border once and for all. We're going to do that. We're going to get the economy going again, American economy going. Make sure that we don't have the largest tax increase in U.S. history, which is what would happen by default at the end of this year if we fail in this mission, because the TCJA, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act extensions expire, the cuts expire. We're going to get the economy going, and we're going to get back to American energy dominance in this bill. Yeah. And we're going to take a blowtorch to the regulatory state. Get the bureaucracy back. Lots of details, lots of subcategories under all that, but it's going to be a big, beautiful bill, and it has to be by necessity, because that gives us the highest probability of success, remembering that I have a small margin in the House.
One.
I have one vote for much of this. What could go wrong, Rob?
Right.
It's going to be fine.
Right.
But everybody is committed to delivering the America First agenda, and that's how we're going to get it done. So.
What is your working dynamic like with Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who for the first time in a long time, the Senate's got a bigger majority than the House right now?
Yeah, they do. The Republican majority in the Senate has a larger margin than we do in the House. And so by necessity, the two chambers have to work very closely together, and that's kind of an innovation. It doesn't really happen in Washington. It hasn't so long as I've been there. But as soon as I became Speaker of the House in October 23, the first instinct I had was, go meet with the Senate Republicans and let's align the two chambers. It just makes sense. It's common sense. So we're doing that, and you're going to see no daylight between the Republicans in the House and Senate.
Mr. Speaker, there was some reporting this week that the Democrats are planning what they're calling a super ticket in 2028, Kamala Harris and AOC. Are you prepared for that?
Oh, let it be so. Let it be so. Wow. Is that real? Is that real?
That's an actual legitimate, well, I use that word legitimate very loosely nowadays with the media, but that report is out there, we'll say.
Wow.
I don't know who would run for president and who would be VP, but
wow. Yeah. I so hope that happens.
Do the Democrats, do they have a leader right now?
No, they don't. They don't have a leader.
Is there any leader at any level, or is it still Joe Biden?
He wasn't the leader for the last 4 years. They really are in a real bind. They don't have a leader. They don't have a vision. They don't have a platform they can run on. They have to do a whole cloth reinvention of the party. But they're very divided right now because they're in the blame game as they do the autopsy of what happened in the election cycle. So it's an interesting time. Look, our party's in great shape right now. We are very unified. We have a broadened coalition. That's exactly right. And we have the principles and the policies that truly are better for the American people. I think they've recognized that. You know what happened in the last 4 years, Rob, is that the woke progressive left tried so hard, they moved so aggressively, so quickly to swing that pendulum to the left, and it went all the way to the left and it clicked. And now it's coming back, right? We are a center-right country. We always have been, we always will be. And I think President Trump is seen as a force helping us to push that pendulum back in place. So we're going to seize that historic moment, and I believe we can bring about a much better outcome for the people, for the country.
Two questions. Elon Musk tweeted yesterday, quote, "The real reason so many Democrats are upset about entitlements is that they're using taxpayer money to attract and retain illegal immigrants, their future voters." Is that what you think the last 4 years at both our borders has been all about?
100%. They opened the borders wide. They did not care about the calamity and the heartache and the death, frankly, that it caused of American citizens, because it was a power play. They wanted to turn these people into voters, and they want to change the outcome of the census in 5 years. This is very serious, and we're going to be dealing with the effects of this, the catastrophe for years to come. It's a terrible tragedy, and don't ever forget that that was their motive. It was for their own political gain that they put the American people in such jeopardy. Fentanyl alone is the leading cause of death for Americans between the ages of 18 and 45, and that's flowed open the border. Human trafficking, all of the atrocities. They lost hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied minors in the system somewhere to traffickers. All of it. They allowed, they turned the other way. They could have sealed that border any moment. The president had the authority, and I asked him personally on multiple occasions. I pleaded with him. I begged Joe Biden, use your authority. And he'd look down at the floor and shuffle his shoes and say, I can't do that. Well, the American people let him know how they felt about that.
Can I ask you, now that the horse is out of the barn, Joe Biden is in Rehoboth Beach, retired, how did he seem during those moments where you were with him in person?
It was only a couple of occasions. I talked to him on the phone a few more times than that. They didn't allow me to meet with him one-on-one for probably obvious reasons now. Yeah. But there's a, now widely reported story of something that happened, I think it was in early February of last year, when I was in the Oval Office and I asked him why he paused LNG exports. Like, Mr. President, why would you pause liquefied natural gas exports to our European allies? Because they're going to have to go to Vladimir Putin to get their needs met. And he tried to argue with me and tell me that he didn't do that. And it occurred to me in this dialogue that he genuinely did not know what he had signed. That they had put this executive order in front of him, and he didn't understand what it was. And that was a very alarming moment of realization for me. And I think the whole country knows now. But it was a dangerous time, a very perilous time for us, particularly in that last year of his administration. But thank God that President Trump is back in the White House.
I think, Mr. Speaker, this room knows you, but I think the American people are still getting to know you. And I thought this was wonderful. Your son is on the boxing team at the Naval Academy. I didn't know that. How is he doing?
Well, he's bigger than his father. He's doing great. He made it to the semifinals in the brigade, championship last Friday, and and lost in a 1-point split decision to a young man who was 3 years older than him and had been boxing about 6 years longer, I think. So he held his own. He's been boxing for about 7 months. Okay, so
7 months.
Yeah. He did jiu-jitsu for a long time. He's a tough kid, but this is a different kind of a.
Does he learn that from his father?
Oh yes, of course. I mean, of course. No, he's a tough kid. He's a great kid. He takes after his mother.
Ladies and gentlemen, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Donald Trump has taken back America.
I actually started quite a while ago in CPAC, and I enjoyed it so much that I came back for a second one, then a third, then I said, what the hell, let's run for president. Matt said, it's like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. He says, you should run for politics. He's the one who said you should run for the presidency of the United States.
It is my honor to introduce to CPAC 2017 our President, Donald Trump.
First of all, I want to thank Matt Schlapp and his very, very incredible wife and boss, Mercedes, who have been fantastic friends and supporters, and so great when I watch them on television defending me. Nobody has a chance. I love this place. Love you people. You never stop fighting for America, and I will never, ever stop fighting for you. We know that there are still more records to be shattered, new summits to be scaled, more triumphs to be realized, and more amazing history just waiting to be written. The American adventure has only just begun. God bless America, and we will see you next year. Thank you very much. You never stop fighting for America, and I will never, ever stop fighting for you.
Hey everyone, it's Matt Schlapp with CPAC. You know, CPAC isn't just a conference. We're fighting 365 days a year on all the issues you care about. Please go to your badge. There's a QR code. Check it out and see the different centers we have at CPAC, whether it's fighting anti-Semitism or corporate responsibility or raiding members of Congress or state legislators or criminal justice reform. You name it, we're into it. Check it out right now. Everything they said about him has been wrong. I don't know how he does it.
It has always been a battle against Donald Trump.
It's a very bright light on the two-tier system of justice that only seems to go after President Trump.
The reason why we want him as president is because he's not stuck in this kind of bureaucratic machination.
He was very clear. If you hit your target, you were golden, and you could work and work and work and do a great job.
He's a very inquisitive person who loves to talk about the economy.
Trump does the same thing in a different meeting. He's talking directly to the American people.
That's why Trump is transformational, because he kind of came outside of the Republican Party.
He's a great closer. He understands what the most important issues are to voters.
Not only is America a great country, but that we Americans are good people.
Donald Trump stands for everything that's good, everything that we need, what needs to be changed in our society today.
Think about that Trump supporter that was demonized, that was taken down, that was criticized, that was targeted. Think about that person out there. That is the one. They are winning tonight. The American people, they've spoken up tonight.
We just lived through history. We're never going to see anything like this ever again.
Being woke is easy when it was just a call to defund the police or end capitalism, right? It's a little different when your fellow ideologues start cheering for your beheading. And here's a question. This next video, does this look like London to you? The pro-Hamas protests making for a very interesting political moment at Harvard. A university recently ranked the worst school for free speech in America. What would Harvard do in a moment like this, we all wondered? A school that will expel you for using the wrong pronoun and making a pink-haired trans girl cry. Well, in this moment, Harvard just miraculously transformed into free speech absolution. Apparently apparently at Harvard there's nothing offensive at all, even though everything's offensive at Harvard. There's nothing offensive at all about celebrating the murder of 1,000 people, including a whole bunch of kids.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Florida, Senator Rick Scott.
So, good afternoon. Welcome to the Capitol. What do you think about Kash Patel? You know, I told CPAC leadership that next year's event should be down in my home state of Florida. You know, we also have a great view of the Gulf of America. By the way, the weather is a little bit better, about 75 degrees. So the first thing I want to do is I want to thank you. I want to thank CPAC for all your friendship and support. You know, last year I ran to be Senate Majority Leader. And many of you very vocally supported me. And I'll be eternally grateful. Your vocal support changed the Senate. You did it. Now, for too long, Washington has been known for all the wrong things. Big spending, no results. Waste and inefficiency. Washington is about enriching politicians like Nancy Pelosi, bureaucrats like Anthony Fauci, at the expense of the American people. Washington was always about protecting the status quo because the politicians in Washington made money off of it. Washington was about a radical social and environmental agenda, about forever wars, open borders, lies and no accountability. Washington was about Washington. It wasn't about the American people who simply want to lead their lives without bureaucrats telling them what the hell to do. All of that is changing. It's changing fast because of one person. Donald J. Trump being in the White House. Now, President Trump is bringing common sense back to Washington. He's bringing transparency and accountability back to Washington. He's working with great leaders like Elon Musk to bring efficiency back to Washington. And the Democrats are complaining like crazy, but he's changing Washington in record time. He's bringing the voice of the American people back to Washington. President Trump is making America great again. Now, what's he deserve? He deserves our thanks and our respect. But what's he get instead? He gets lies and obstruction for the Democrats, the mainstream media, and even some establishment Washington Republicans desperately clinging to relevance. Mitch McConnell supports Merrick Garland's nomination for Attorney General. He's already voted against 3 of President Trump's cabinet nominees. AOC, she's the only one of fascism. CNN is blaring that the Trump administration is a threat to democracy and ushering a constitutional crisis. Guess what? Here's the good news. They're the past. Their voices no longer matter. Their shadow can no longer hang over politics. They lost, the American people won. What happened last fall? President Trump and an army of supporters like you all across this great country started a movement. One that changed the country and reset our future for a golden era. The future is about you and your hopes and your dreams. It's about us It's about amplifying the voices of the American people and finally giving the government what they're paying for and that they deserve. Now, a couple years ago, in the midst of Joe Biden's disastrous presidency, or whoever was in charge, I put out a plan with some ideas to rescue this country from the radical Democrats who are trying to destroy our values and bankrupt us in the process. Now, the way the Democrats and establishment Republicans responded, you would have thought I broke the law. And the craziest part of it, I couldn't tell who hated more, Joe Biden or Mitch McConnell. Now think about it, I proposed some really crazy ideas, so just think about these. Teach your students about the U.S. Constitution. That's a hard one. The Bill of Rights, our founding fathers. Have their kids recite the Pledge of Allegiance and salute the flag. Eliminating the Department of Education. Banning the federal government from asking American citizens to disclose their race or skin color on government forms. Funding our police and enforcing all of our laws. Securing the border, build a wall, name the wall after Donald Trump. Start growing the American economy, not the Washington economy. Enacting term limits for member Congress. And federal bureaucrats. Protecting the integrity of the American election. Protecting, defending, promoting the American family at all costs. Believing in science. Guess what? Men are men. Women are women. Unborn babies, they're babies. Sorry, Democrats. I was tarred and feathered for proposing such crazy ideas. But it was worth it, because it was time for Republicans, at least the true, honest, conservative Republicans, to stand up and fight the hell back. Now, here in Washington, we're seeing what truly fighting back gets us. The bureaucrats are scared that their lies are being exposed. The money spigot is being turned off. NGOs across the world and liberal think tanks around the world are scrambling because their golden goose has finally laid its last egg. Corporate America is tripping over itself to reverse racist DEI programs that seek to divide us by race, gender, and creed. Now, fighting back gets us a government that's listening. An administration that's focused on a stronger future. A president that really cares. Who truly fights for us. And who will not accept the status quo any longer. Now, let me say what I said a few years ago when I introduced my plan to rescue our country. Failure is not an option. The future of this country depends on each and every one of us and the actions we take today, tomorrow, and the months to come. Now, I've got grandkids. Many of you in this room and watching on TV, you've got kids and grandkids as well. In America, we used to believe we had a duty, a sacred duty, to leave things better for our children and our grandchildren than we found them. $2 trillion deficits, $36 trillion in debt, Medicare and Social Security going bankrupt, failing schools, high crime rates, means that hasn't happened. Instead, our political and cultural rot has made things harder for our kids and our grandkids than they were for each of us. It's harder to get a good education now than it was when I was growing up. It's harder to buy a home. It's harder to start a business. It's harder to get a good, full-paying job. It's harder to live the American dream. That's wrong. That cannot be our legacy. Those of us fighting side by side in the conservative movement have faced significant obstacles, even unfortunately inside our own party. But you and we have kept fighting. We have to fight harder now. We have the opportunity, but it takes our fight. Now, we all watched what happened in Butler. We all saw President Trump stand up and raise his fist, and what did he do? Fight, fight, fight! Even in the face of unimaginable obstacles, he kept fighting. Now, we know he's going to keep fighting. I know I'm going to keep fighting, and I know everybody in this room is going to keep fighting with us. Thank you for what you're doing. God bless every one of you. God bless the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and God bless this great country. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
They've made billions partnering with big health insurance corporations while opposing reforms seniors want, like applying big discounts to medicines directly at the pharmacy counter. Instead, AARP supports liberal price-setting schemes, giving politicians, not seniors, control over any so-called Medicare savings. With no guarantees, funds won't be spent on unrelated programs or pad big insurers' profits. If AARP and Congress believe America's seniors aren't watching, think again. Paid for by American Commitment.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior. And He's there to change your life for the better.
Still under construction, but already the biggest news station in Poland. The only international TV station that interviewed Donald J. Trump. I'd like to say hello to the Polish people. Poland's leftist government wants to destroy us, but we are not backing down. We're building conservative, English-speaking European news station. Join the movement. Support the revolution.
Make Europe great again.
This is Republican, the home of free speech.
Hey there, scan your QR code on your badge so that you can view the agenda. Check out our membership circles and learn more about our centers.
As I think it was President Reagan said, we're from the government. We're here to help.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
We're from the government. We're here to help.
Sources out there that are saying that Iran, their goal is to draw the U.S. into this broader conflict. There's no question that not only did the Iranian parliament come out and start saying death to Israel, you know that they've chanted death to America. They hate us. They hate our culture. They hate what we stand for, which is that of freedom and religious freedom. And for them, they want to take us down. And the mere fact is you have a commander-in-chief right now who is hiding in the basement that needs to be out there every single day answering the tough questions. Instead, they basically say that climate change remains the most important national security crisis that we're facing. They have caved in time and time again to Iran while knowing that they are funding Hezbollah. They sent over $100 million, that is Iran, to Hamas, and over $700 million to Hezbollah. Clearly, it is about sponsoring terrorism. Clearly, it is about destroying our strongest ally, Israel, and then America.
Ladies and gentlemen, up next, nowhere to hide, the takedown of left tech. Please welcome, from Missouri, Senator Eric Schmidt, and founder and president, Article 3 Project, Mike Davis.
coming. We're going to talk about big tech, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple, and what we need to do to end their gatekeeping power over information and commerce. And this started under the Trump 45 administration, where we saw our 100-year-old antitrust laws get dusted off, and we ended big tech's antitrust amnesty, where we want to use antitrust, which is law enforcement, to go after these trillion-dollar big tech monopolists who they have too much power, and they use that power for bad things, and they're anti-competitive. And we saw that the Trump 45 Justice Department started this. I always said that the only thing that the Biden administration did right was they continued President Trump's antitrust enforcement under the Biden antitrust division. And we're seeing with President Trump that he is fully committed to finishing the job with antitrust. You see this with his appointment of Andrew Ferguson to chair the Federal Trade Commission. And we're seeing this with President Trump's pick of Gail Slater to lead the antitrust division. And it's critically important because these trillion-dollar big tech monopolists, they crush competition, they shutter small businesses, and they cancel conservatives and others with whom they disagree. And I'll tell you, the tip of the spear in this fight has been Senator Schmidt from Missouri. He has been a warrior against big tech, and so I'm very pleased to talk to him today about these issues. And I just want to start this off, Senator, to just get your thoughts on antitrust and big tech generally, and what you think needs to happen.
Well, I think, great to be with you, great to be back at CPAC. What a great crowd. This feels a lot different now that we won in November than it did just a couple of years ago, doesn't it? There's a new sheriff in town. So, yeah, I think that for most people, especially people in this room and conservatives, they have seen, Mike, over the last 4 years in particular, what happens when you have these massive concentrations of power. And you see that sort of collide with this fundamental belief that we have as conservatives that when we're born with certain rights. And those rights come from God. And the first one that's mentioned in our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, is the right to speak your mind. This idea of fundamental human expression, right? And government's only role is to make sure it protects those rights. That's like the foundation of the country, and we believe that. So when you have these massive companies then that infringe upon that right, and sometimes with at the behest of the federal government, it's a scary situation. In my previous job, before this one, I was Attorney General for the free state of Missouri. It was a great gig, I loved it. And we launched the Missouri versus Biden lawsuit, which turned into Murphy versus Missouri. But you gotta remember, so I think it's important to sort of go back in time. In 2021, 2022, really before Elon Musk had bought Twitter, before Jim Jordan was holding hearings, we filed this lawsuit. And it's interesting, Jen Psaki, you gotta go back, this is COVID, forced masking, forced vaccinations, the real raw power of the federal government was on display. And Jen Psaki was standing there up at the podium saying, yeah, we're flagging this for Facebook, they need to take this down. They wanted to start a disinformation governance board. Remember Mary Poppins, who was singing, what was her name? But she's, singing about how great it is, and this disinformation must be taken down by the government. So you saw this, when we filed the lawsuit, we got discovery before the temporary restraining order that ultimately went to the Supreme Court. And what we found was shocking. We had an idea of what was happening, but could have never been prepared for what we found, which was high-level government officials working directly through a secret portal with the big tech companies at Facebook, at Twitter, saying, take this down. This is misinformation. You need to take this down. And them saying, okay, what else can we do? They were also threatening to take away Section 230 protections if they didn't do more censorship. So as this unfolded, it really, I think, showed to the world and to this country the real risk of these concentrations of power, with the federal government working directly with big tech giants to censor speech. And I think this is the fight This is the fight long term for us. The Democrats, the liberals even, have ceded this ground, the high ground of defending your right to speak your mind. And so as conservatives, I think we should own this issue. It's the right thing to do. And clearly the American people, I think, watched all this the last 4 years, and they sent back President Trump to fix it.
That's exactly right. I think people need to understand the whole point of antitrust is to protect the free market, right? When you have these trillion-dollar monopolists using their market power to crush competition, you no longer have a functioning market. You no longer have a free market, and that's why antitrust laws that have been on the books are so critically important to break up this power. Because if you're a free market conservative like we both are, you should strongly support antitrust law enforcement. You are targeting the anti-competitive tumors on the free market, so you don't need industry-wide regulation. Facebook is calling for regulation. Of course they are, because they're a big company and they can afford to pay for the lawyers and the lobbyists and the PR people to navigate those regulations. Those are entry barriers to startup competitors. And I would say this, remember this about Google and YouTube. If Google competed against YouTube instead of acquired YouTube, there's no chance that Google would be censoring half of America based upon their political viewpoints. They would be competing. Google would be competing with YouTube for conservative users, not trying to censor them. And I think that's really important to remember.
Yeah, I think in Google in particular, like, there's been a lot of attention. I mean, thank God Elon Musk bought Twitter and X, and it really is a platform. It really is a platform. And but Google is really the ultimate black box. That algorithm, like if you're a business or whatever, or you're a political candidate, there's a huge difference between you being on page 1 of the search and page 12 of the search, right? And nobody gets to see the wizard right now. Nobody gets to see it. So I think some of the litigation as relates to Google is really important to sort of bust that up so you have real competition.
That's right. There are two major antitrust lawsuits working their way through the courts right now. And Google's the worst of the worst. They're the worst actor. And what is on Google's search monopoly? When you go on Google and look for things online, that's their search monopoly. The bigger problem is Google has an online advertising monopoly, right? They use the money they make with their online advertising monopoly to fund their censorship. All their woke nonsense that they do is because they have this online advertising monopoly. And you're seeing lawsuits right now, again, started under Trump, to Biden's credit, continued under Biden. We need to finish the job with Trump's antitrust law enforcers, like Gail Slater at the Antitrust Division. Another problem you're seeing with these big tech platforms is something like NewsGuard, right? Where they rate news services in schools, like libraries and classrooms, and of course, they give conservative news organizations like Newsmax or Fox News or Breitbart, they give them lower grades, and so kids don't have access to conservative news sites. They get the liberal news sites like CNN and MSNBC, and that needs to end as well, because again, they're trying to control information and commerce in this country, and we just cannot let this happen. So,
well, I think the other thing that's happening too, and we saw it, which is why, it's such a great opportunity for us now with having President Trump in the White House, having a Republican House, having a Republican Senate, because we can actually put some structural safeguards in place too. For example, Section 230 protections, what is that? Back in the 90s when the internet was sort of becoming a thing, what Congress said was, okay, you're going to be sort of immune from liability because you're a platform, right? People can go on there, as long as it's an open platform, you can't be sued for what somebody else says. And the idea was to have this democratization of information, right? What it didn't ever contemplate was that they would then be themselves sort of the censors, right? And so I think, by way of legislation, you got to pick. You're either going to be an open platform, or you're going to be a publisher and get sued like 60 Minutes ought to get sued for the nonsense that they did to President Trump in the interviews. So they got to pick a team. And also, if you're a bureaucrat and you work to censor Americans, you ought to be able to be sued individually by a citizen, so it doesn't take an attorney general to have to go do that. You as an army of Americans can sue the censors. That would change, I think that would really change the incentive structure, which would be really important. And I can't miss the opportunity to point out just how exciting, as Mike and I and all of you believe, the founders believed in this system of checks and balances where we have, power is spread out among the branches, you have federalism. The whole intent was so that no one branch or no one person could ever get so powerful to take your liberty away, right? That's the whole idea. The whole point is to protect individual liberty. They could have never contemplated the administrative state as it currently is right now, right? This army of bureaucrats and buildings, by the way, they don't even show up to work anymore. About 6% of people are actually in the offices here in Washington, D.C. on any given day. But they have immense power over your lives, right? Over your lives. They can take away your liberty in some cases. They can take away your livelihood. And so what President Trump is embarking on, and you see just the histrionics every day, the Democrats are losing their minds because of DOGE and these efforts to strip away that power. And they should. They should, because the people of this country elected one person to run the executive branch. And he gets to make decisions on personnel and on policy. And you don't get to send millions of dollars to Guatemala for sex changes and think you're immune from having that money stripped away. That's what this fight is all about right now. So it's an exciting time.
It is an exciting time. And I will say this to the big tech platforms like Google and Facebook. Thank you for paying for Trump's inauguration. I think Mark Zuckerberg donated $1 million. We appreciate that. It was a fun party. But Mark Zuckerberg spent, what, $400 million on chasing President Trump out of office in 2020. So $400 million versus $1 million. I think he has a lot of catching up to do. And I don't think that he's going to buy antitrust amnesty from the Trump 47 Justice Department or the Trump 47 Federal Trade Commission. We've had these antitrust laws on the books for 100 years, and to these trillion-dollar big tech platforms, nobody's above the law. And so justice is coming.
Yeah, I think with the time we have left, I just mentioned one other thing to kind of look out for. On the Judiciary Committee, I was telling Mike, I chair the Constitution Subcommittee. So we have jurisdiction over the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, so get ready, we're gonna have some fun hearings and bring people in and hold people to account for trying to take away your right to speak your mind. So whoever's watching this who engage in activity, stay tuned. But also, what's happening with DOGE right now, and it was so smart to start with these, with USAID, right, where you had all of this money flowing to DEI programming in Burma and LGBTQIA plays in Europe and LGBTQ Sesame Street in Iraq. I mean, this is like totally insane, but that's where this money was going. But it was funneled effectively through these NGOs, right? The Biden administration was also using these NGOs to bring mass migration into this country, to break up our sovereignty as a country, and they were also using it to help flag things for their vast censorship enterprise. And so I think we're going to do some investigating on who these NGOs are. And if you want to know why the Democrats, they're objecting so much to this, there is a lot of corruption that's going to be exposed. So that's great.
I want to end this on this point. Senator Schmidt has been a warrior in the Senate for President Trump's cabinet picks and others, and Kash Patel was just confirmed today as our next FBI director. I remember when Kash was nominated, a lot of very smart people in Washington said his nomination was dead on arrival. Well, now it's Director Kash Patel, and I want to thank Senator Schmidt for all he does for President Trump and his nominees. This guy is a warrior, so
thanks for your work too. Thanks for your work too. Thank you.
You came to Washington for one of two reasons. Some of you came here for a position, for power and fame. Came here for position, for power and fame. You came for you. But if you came to change this town, we came to be sandpaper to a culture that despises truth. Are you one of the few willing to stand in the gap for our nation? If so, come join us as we make America's national motto our personal declaration.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
He will become the founder of a mighty empire.
Founders talked about this providential experiment that God had ordained and intervened at this unique moment in American history.
Most of them believed there were no accidents in history.
Americans of today should regain our bearings, that our nation is no accident.
Freedom, sovereignty, prosperity. The Patriots for Europe Foundation is on a mission to make Europe great again. Globalist elites have led Europe into a dead-end street. Violent crime has surged because of mass immigration. The Green Deal has put the future of the European economy at risk. Fake NGOs and the massive bureaucracy in Brussels are interfering in our democracies. Patriots must take action. We bring analysis, we organize debates, we build the network of patriots to challenge the woke narrative head on. Patriots for Europe Foundation.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nigel Farage.
Thank you so very much. What a reception. It's great to be here, and how amazing it is. You know, 13 years ago, I was the only foreign speaker, and now CPAC is a global brand. Congratulations to Matt and Mercedes Schlapp for making it happen. And what a time it is to cross the pond. My country. You can't say anything, or you might get put in prison. We're getting poorer. Everybody's miserable. We're governed by a left-wing, awful government. Suddenly, post-November the 5th, America is optimistic. It's upbeat. It's the beginning of the golden age in America. And it is all because of one totally extraordinary individual. You know, I can tell you that if you take on the establishment, they do not come out with a tray of drinks. The whole of the British establishment wanted us to be members of the globalist European Union. All the parties, all the big businesses, all the trade unions. And it was almost me alone saying, this is a crazy idea. We want control of our sovereignty, our borders, and our identity back with the British people. And for daring to say that, they made my life hell. But the tough times I went through are as nothing compared to what they put Donald J. Trump through. It went on for year after year after year. Endless court cases, mainstream media abuse, harassment of his family, debanking from some of the worst financial institutions, assassination attempts. And yet this man has come through it braver, stronger, wiser than at any point. He is simply the bravest man that I know, and we should all applaud him. We really should. We really should. And what a pick. What a pick for Vice President. You know, very often, around the world, very often Vice Presidents, American Vice Presidents, are not particularly noticed, not taken that seriously. But after the speech at the Munich Security Conference, I think we can say with some confidence that the American VP is going to be a major part of global politics. And I loved it. I loved it. Did you enjoy his speech? Well, I tell you what, they didn't, did they? They absolutely hated it. It rather reminded me of my times in the European Parliament a decade ago, getting up saying the bloke had the charisma of a damp rag, and that rather upset them. But JD was right to have allowed millions of undocumented young males to come into Europe, many from war zones in which they took an active part, to allow those people who come in, and in many cases come from cultures and countries where women are not even treated as second-class citizens, to have seen the massive increases in crime, gang crime, dramatic increases in sexual crime against women, and yet nobody in the European establishment is prepared to put their hands up to recognize the depth of the problem and to say sorry to their people. And JD called them out in this speech, and he was right. He was right. He also mentioned free speech, and I think there's a third figure in American public life now that is, well, I think he's a hero. Because if you remember 2020, in November, you couldn't say anything about the conduct of the election in this country. You then couldn't say anything about vaccines or about lockdowns without social media closing you down. And then along came the hero of free speech, Elon Musk. Fantastic. And he's fighting for free speech. And boy, if we don't have free speech, we're not living in a free, open, democratic society. It matters that much. And I think and I believe that the talents of the world's most successful businessmen going into this amazing DOGE project, I wish him all the luck in the world and Godspeed. I really, really do. And we very often follow you. American trends we tend to follow. You occasionally follow some of our trends. I mean, you gave us woke. And we gave you Prince Harry. No, you keep him, you keep him. But in 2016, we delivered a political thunderbolt across the whole world, and it was called Brexit. And I believe that a wave crossed the Atlantic and helped Donald Trump win the presidency in November 2016. Well, this time, the Trump win has the ability not just to save your country, not just to make you freer and more prosperous than America has ever been, because undoubtedly that is what is going to happen. But it's also producing a wave that is now coming the other way, across the Atlantic. I had been retired from politics for nearly 4 years, but I decided last June I'd get back into politics because I couldn't bear what was happening in my country. And I am now leading, and in historical terms, this is incredible. I am now leading Reform UK, and we are now topping every opinion poll in Britain. And we are going to win the next general election and save our country. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. And what you guys have done, what CPAC, what the activists have done in helping President Trump win 85% of the counties in this great country of yours, to win the House, the Senate, the majority vote, all those things you've done, the confidence of this man, surrounded by a great team, this is all going to blow back and help us in our endeavours and across the rest of Europe too. And I really believe that, like you, British taxpayers have had enough of sending £100,000 to Bangladesh to study shrimp behaviour. But we've had enough of free speech being cracked down upon. We've had enough of two-tier policing, two-tier justice, different groups of people being treated differently by the law. We've had enough of being told, you can't say that. The hell with it. Within the limits of what free speech gives us, we should be allowed to say whatever the hell we want. And we will. And we will. We will deport those who come into Britain by dinghy illegally. We will make sure that those to come to Britain legally subscribe to our shared values. In fact, in many ways, what we're fighting for is a very similar agenda to the one that you've just fought for and the one that you have just succeeded with. I want to finish by saying, as a regular at CPAC and as somebody who has publicly supported President Trump and been a friend of his for a decade, this is a remarkable CPAC coming together. This is something to celebrate in style, to be proud of. You're going to make America great again, and we in turn will make Britain great again. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.
Welcome to CPAC. At Great American Media, we celebrate what matters most: faith, family, and country. Today, we invite you to experience storytelling that uplifts, inspires, and reflects the values we all cherish. PureFlix is your home for entertainment without compromise. With faith-driven movies and series, we bring you stories that strengthen hearts, uplift spirits, and honor what truly matters. And on Great American Family, where faith leads, where stories inspire. Welcome home. Whether it's Christmas all year long, heartfelt romances, or movies that bring families together, we are here to make you feel at home. At Great American Media, our foundation is quality. Our promise is to always deliver entertainment that aligns with your faith and values. Thank you for standing with us as we stand for faith, family, and country. Enjoy CPAC. And remember, when you choose Great American Media, you choose entertainment that lifts you up. Join us and experience the best in faith and family entertainment.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed to be ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MKUltra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
Creators, it's time to take control. With Bursts, you create impactful content in seconds. Powered by blockchain, your content and earnings are protected, transparent, and yours to control. Play TV isn't just a platform. It's a community of creators building a new future together. Your freedom starts when you press play.
Hey CPAC Patriots, make sure to go downstairs to go check out all of our incredible sponsors for CPAC 2025.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Verdict with Ted Cruz and co-host Ben Ferguson, featuring Attorney General Pam Bondi.
So we are going to be doing our podcast live, so I'm going to give you guys a countdown. You guys are going to be in the podcast with us. I'm going to say we're from CPAC. I want you guys to be as loud as you possibly can. Are you ready? All right, here we go. Welcome, it is Verdict with Ted Cruz, live from CPAC 2025. Senator, I like this being our annual time to hang out with fun people.
Well, it is great to be back with CPAC, and I gotta say, CPAC this year, there is energy, there's excitement. It turns out winning doesn't suck.
It does not.
And we have a guest. We have the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi.
They finally did, and I get to do it in front of all of you, so this is awesome.
Well, Pam, I will tell you that there is some good karma to being on this podcast at CPAC, because the last guest we had at CPAC was someone named J.D. Vance, and he's done all right for himself.
Yeah. He's a great man.
So, welcome.
Thank you.
You have been Attorney General 15 days.
It feels like 15 years.
I believe you. And by the way, you just got some help. An hour ago, the Senate just finished confirming.
Yes, isn't that great? Been on the phone with him nonstop.
I talked to him on the ride over here. He is going to do fantastic.
There is.
All right, let's start. 15 days. You've come into what I think is the single most important cabinet position in this administration. Because we went through 4 years of Biden weaponizing the Department of Justice, using it to attack his enemies and to support his friends. So let me ask you, come into DOJ, you've got a mission. You've got a mission to restore integrity to the department, to end the weaponization and politicization. How do you do that? How do you get that done?
You know, the volume, Senator, what concerned me the most, it's the volume of how bad it was. And it still is. We're working on it. It's day by day by day. But we've got a team of great people, and on day one, I issued 14 executive orders, and number one is the weaponization ends, and it ends now. And that's what we did.
Let me ask you something. In the 15 days you've been there, how many DOJ employees have said something to the effect of, thank God?
A lot of them.
I believe you. Look. I spent 4 years hearing from AUSAs, assistant U.S. attorneys, hearing from FBI agents, hearing from men and women who believe in the rule of law and were horrified at the politicization of the FBI and the DOJ. And so I know for a lot of good, honorable men and women who've devoted their careers to defending the Constitution, there's a lot of gratitude that they can get back to doing their job.
Their core function, and that's thanks to Donald J. Trump getting back in office, and he gave us a clear directive, make America safe. And that's what we're going to do. And you know, to start with the law enforcement agencies talking about cash, These men and women didn't go to Quantico. They're not risking their lives to waste their time on all this politicization and raiding Mar-a-Lago. Really? Stopping. All of that is stopping. And we are returning them to their core function, fighting violent crime. And that's what the great majority of men and women in law enforcement, DEA, ATF, U.S. Marshals, FBI, as well as the incredible legal team at the Justice Department, that's what they want to do.
So let's talk about one of the most lawless aspects of the last 4 years, which was the open borders that we saw and the 12 million illegal immigrants that have come into this country. You've had just 2 weeks, but you've hit the ground running, going after the criminals, going after the murderers, going after the rapists, going after the child molesters, going after the Venezuelan gang members. Tell us, number one, what you're doing as Attorney General that is making a real difference, that is already making America safer. And number two, I understand you have some breaking news concerning my home state of Texas, which I'm particularly proud to hear.
I do, and the press release isn't even out yet. Joint Task Force Alpha that we elevated once we came in office. It's with the Department of Justice and the FBI, and we work hand in hand with Homeland Security. Kristi Noem is awesome.
Yep.
We all work so well together. Joint Task Force Alpha just made a huge arrest in Juarez, Mexico. They were headed to Texas, to El Paso, human smuggling. Yeah, huge. That's why we do what we do every day.
Yep.
That's why these agents risk their lives every single day. It's human smuggling, and a lot of children, they're saying, are safer because of this.
Let me ask you a question. President Trump, and this has made headlines on what you were just talking about, we've designated these cartels as terrorist organizations. What does that allow you to do in your job? And Kash Patel now is the head of the FBI. What is that going to give you the ability to do and to go after them?
Well, Stephen Miller is doing a great job, as we are, right? Leading this effort with all of us. Mike Waltz at DOD. We all work so, Pete Hegseth, we all work so well together. And it gives us the ability, they are a terrorist group. And it gives us the ability to go after them, more ability, anywhere in the world, and treat them as terrorists. They are terrorists. If you're bringing fentanyl into this country and killing our kids, you're a terrorist, and we're coming after you.
300 a day is the average that are dying in this country right now. When you took this job and you hear that number and you saw the inaction from the last administration, how angry did that make you?
So angry. You know, I was state AG before I became United States Attorney General, and fentanyl was really just coming on the market. And now with this horrible open border policy, just flowing across our borders and killing kids, killing adults every single day. And it's criminal that no one was doing anything to stop it. I can't comprehend how any administration, progressive nor conservative, how any administration could tolerate that and let that happen. And it ended day one with Donald Trump when he shut that border. I was at the border back in September. I went with Laura Trump and Morgan Ortagus.
Yep.
And we were in Yuma, Arizona. And I saw firsthand, there is nothing humanitarian that was happening at that border. Nothing. They have a rape tree where they're raping women as they're coming into this country. I saw firsthand piles and piles of passports just thrown from every country you can imagine, because the Biden administration was letting you walk right in the country. If you didn't have a passport, they said they saw Asian, Chinese individuals saying, oh, we're from Cuba. So they wrote down they're from Cuba and had to let them legally walk right in under that administration. But the drugs, the trafficking, I learned a new term, disposable child. The customs, the Border Patrol agents told me that they saw a little boy and they kept recognizing the same little boy over and over and over coming in. Because if you came into our country as a family unit, they just let you walk right in.
Yep.
Well, this little child was being trafficked.
Yes.
Now, how they were getting him back to Mexico is beyond me, but they were bringing him time and time again. He wasn't their family, so who knows what happened to his parents.
Well, and I will say a number of people in the room gasped at a term you use, which unfortunately is a real term, rape tree.
Yeah.
And it's something that we've been seeing for the last 4 years in Texas. We've seen it in Arizona, that the cartels will go and violently rape women. They'll violently rape teenage girls, young girls, and then they will hang their underwear in the tree. And you'll find a tree down on the southern border with 10, 20 pairs of underwear as they're mocking law enforcement, saying, we can do whatever we want. And for 4 years, the Biden Justice Department, they just turned a blind eye and they facilitated it. You know, you talked about the kids, so they had a policy. If you arrive with a kid, it's essentially a get-out-of-jail-free card. And so you started seeing a phenomenon that we've never seen in immigration before, which is single young men showing up with little kids. Now, that's not a normal pattern of migration, but we started seeing military-age men showing up with little boys and little girls, many of whom are physically and sexually assaulted in transit, and the same kid the cartels would recycle over and over and over again to bring in gang members, to bring in criminals. Now, let me ask this. What is most effective stopping the invasion at the southern border?
The border, closing our borders, which is what we've done. Donald Trump has closed our border. But now, of course, we all know we have so many of these illegal aliens, fighting age men, ages 18 to 35, in our country, walking around our country. And President Trump has given a strong directive on that.
How concerned are you right now about the 12 million illegal aliens who came in under Joe Biden, and about the risk of terrorism, of Hamas, of Hezbollah, of Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the risk of terrorism targeting Americans across this country?
It's a huge risk, and we all know how bad it is now. And that's what Donald Trump is committed to do, is to take these people out of our country, to prosecute them, to deport them, to get them off our streets. And that's what all of these law enforcement agencies are doing. You know, Laken Riley, of course, that beautiful young woman, University of Georgia, Laken Riley is probably the most prominent name. But look how many Laken Rileys are out there. One victim is too many.
Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Marin. I mean, the numbers just every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to say, so already in the first 2 weeks, you've sued New York, you've sued Chicago.
You can clap for that.
These sanctuary cities that are fighting, and I've got to say, Massachusetts in particular, actually in our last podcast we talked about this, how Massachusetts continues to this day to have violent child rapist illegal immigrants who they release on the streets, and they refuse to notify ICE. They refuse. These are illegal immigrants who could be deported immediately, and the Massachusetts officials take criminals who violently rape little kids. Let me ask you, what is your message to a mayor, to a local official who wants to defy federal immigration law?
Well, our message is very clear. I sued Illinois first, Chicago, first day, and I gave a very strong warning. If you don't comply with the law, you're next. And guess who didn't listen? New York. Kathy Hochul got sued. They all got sued in New York. And if you don't follow the law, you're going to be next, because we are going to get violent criminals off our street. And you know, Senator, it's more than that. They're endangering the lives of our great men and women in law enforcement.
Yes.
That's what people don't understand. When you're hiding illegal aliens from law enforcement, you're endangering their lives. It's gonna stop.
So let me ask you, 2 weeks into it, you've been at DOJ. What's your assessment? Is it as bad as you thought it would be? Is it better? Is it worse?
It's worse. Of course, it's no worse.
You inherited chaos.
Worse meaning, yeah, that department had completely lost its mission of fighting violent crime. Look what they did to President Trump. Look at the weaponization, and weaponization ended. And the deep state is very real. I think all of you in this room know that. It's very real. And people trying to undermine everything you're doing. You know, 3 weeks into it, I went in one department and found huge 20 by 20 glossies of Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, and Kamala Harris still hanging up in my office. They're gone. They're gone. They're gone. And guess what's replacing it? A very handsome photo of a man named Donald Trump.
Not the one in the hallway, right? That picture?
That one.
That one, okay, I like that one.
That one's replacing. But you know, I make light of that, but that's what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, he had been in office 3 weeks, and the deep state still had those pictures hanging, and that's, to me, that's defiant. It's insubordination, not going to happen. But you know, what we said, most people, the majority of the people are great people who went to law school, became prosecutors, became law enforcement agents to fight crime.
You've spent your professional life as a prosecutor.
Career.
How important is it to you to go after bad guys and to get bad guys off the street and keep people safe?
It means everything, and the drug epidemic, you know, the fentanyl just flowing into our country now, the terrorists, the gangs, TDA, Trans-Dagua, MS-13, all of the gangs who are now terrorist organizations. We've got to stop them, and that's why we do what we do. And we all have to work together, and working with Homeland Security has been great too.
So one of the most shocking statistics from the prior administration is the number 300,000. 300,000 children that the prior administration had in custody and that they lost, that they do not know where they are. We know that many of those children are being abused right now. Tell me about the efforts you and Homeland Security and the Trump administration, the efforts you are doing to find those children and to get them out of harm's way.
That's top priority, and that's Donald Trump's top priority, to find these victims and to save them. And that's what I truly can't comprehend how any administration would let that happen and not care. And that's what we're all fighting for. And you know, you say, when you take a job with this incredible volume, you think, how do you do it? How do you focus every day? And you do it by saying, if I can save one life, it's worth it.
Well, it's a lot more than one.
But it compounds. That's how you start off, one life.
And it is thousands and ultimately more. So I want to say something to the folks here at CPAC, which is, as many of y'all know, Ben and I do this podcast, Verdict with Ted Cruz. We do it 3 days a week. We do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We've got roughly 1 million unique listeners all over the country. And we do this to go around the corporate media, to go directly to the American people and to bring the truth and bring the facts. So I want to ask everyone here, many of y'all already subscribe to the pod, but I want to ask everyone here to pull out your cell phone right now. Pull out your cell phone and text the word verdict, V-E-R-D-I-C-T. Text the word verdict to 24005. Again, 24005. When you text verdict to 24005, what you'll get back is a link to subscribe to the podcast. Now, if you're under 40, you know what I'm talking about. And if you're not, ask your kids or ask your grandkids. Although I'll say, if you're at CPAC, you're pretty hip and connected. So you may know as well if you're here at CPAC. But every Monday,
and subscribe
Wednesday,
doesn't mean it costs you money, to quote your dad.
Oh, my father points out that my dad is 85, and he said when he hears subscribe, he thinks it's a magazine subscription. There's no charge. It just magically appears in your phone early in the morning on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we bring in guests like the Attorney General of the United States, and we focus on what is happening, the victories that President Trump is winning, and the news that the corporate media won't cover.
Yeah.
I want to ask you...
24005.
I want to ask you a question. It's one that I've been dying to ask you, and it deals with all of the pardons that were given out from Joe Biden at the end. There were a lot that went to his family. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. There's one person he did not pardon. That would be himself. There are a lot of people that think there should be accountability. Should this be something that is looked at to see what he did while he was president?
Don't you find it very interesting, though, that they attempted to prosecute the president for having documents in the most secure place in the world other than the White House, Mar-a-Lago, and he had the security clearance to take them. Yet Joe Biden, who had no security clearance to take them at the time, had them in his garage with his drug addict son going in and out of his garage. Yet what did they say about him?
Too old to prosecute.
Frail old man. But listen, Donald Trump and I have not talked about that at all. This is not about targeting. This is what they do to us. This is not about targeting. This is not about weaponization. This is about keeping America safe and going forward and prosecuting violent criminals. If you committed a crime in this country, no one is above the law. I will say that. No one is above the law.
So Pam, the media are going crazy about New York Mayor Eric Adams and the charges that were dismissed against him.
So glad you brought that up.
Tell us what the story is, what happened there, and why were the charges dismissed?
Sure. And Emil, who has done an incredible job, he worked on this case, he looked at this case. It was an incredibly weak case filed to make deportation harder. That's why they did it. They took one of the biggest mayors in the country off the playing field in order to protect their sanctuary city. This case, it was so incredibly weak. It was about increases in airline tickets, upgrades in airline tickets in his official capacity, without getting into all the details of the fact. I don't even think it could survive a verdict. Excuse me. Incredibly weak case. That is the weaponization of government.
That's lawfare.
That's lawfare. When you're filing cases like that to keep someone who criticized Joe Biden, who said they took away his security clearance, so he could not get the details, so he could not help enforce the deportation efforts in New York. And you know, these people are going after him. Ride a subway in New York. It's not safe.
Yep.
Violent crime is at an all-time high, and that's what they're doing. So it's not about weaponization, it's about ending their weaponization of the government and fighting violent crime and enabling cities like New York and mayors like Eric Adams to enforce Donald Trump's immigration policies.
I want to ask you, and go back to something you said a moment ago. We were talking about cartels, and they have been able to set up networks, and we see this coming up now more often, where they're controlling states and cities and states and the entire flow. And they've been able to do this and set it up without having to worry that anyone's going to stop them. We're seeing this not on border states, but all over the country, this network. At what point do we get to start dismantling that? How long does that take? How much time is that going to take? Because they've been here for quite some time with the last administration.
Yeah, there's a lot I can't talk about now. But very publicly, I think you've seen a lot happen. A lot is happening every day. Our great men and women in law enforcement are out there. It's a joint effort with our office and with Kristi Noem. And again, we all work so well together, whether it's Mike Waltz, Pete
Y'all are
Bessa,
friends. I think people don't understand this. Like, this is a group in this administration, and you and I have talked about this on the show. You guys are friends. Like, y'all know each other before you got here. How important are those relationships that you say, hey, I trust you, I trust you, I trust you, I got your back, let's go to work.
Vital and crucial. And Mike Watts and Kristi, we're on the phone with each other all the time. And to change the topic just a little bit, just to give you an example, Lee Zeldin, a dear friend of mine.
Great guy.
On President's Day.
Running the EPA now.
EPA, Lee Zeldin, great administrator of EPA. I'm on the phone hours with Scott Besson, our Secretary of Treasury, and Lee Zeldin. And, you know, we've seen, thanks to Elon Musk, my buddy's great work.
Yep.
And it's been reported, look what they're doing at EPA. I'm changing the subject a little bit, but they're giving out billions of dollars after Joe Biden lost the election, trying to push this money out the door.
Virtually shoveling cash out the windows.
As they said, gold bars.
Yeah.
Let's throw all the gold bars off the ship.
Yep.
And we're stopping them in real time. We're going after them. But it's because we all pick up the phone and we talk directly to each other. So we're able to work together, you know, talk to Marco Rubio and look at the men like Steve Witkoff out there, Rick Grinnell, what they're doing working with Marco and Mike Waltz and all the people that they're saving around the world. And that's thanks to one man, Donald Trump. He put all of us in these
Yep.
positions
Well, and
because he believes in us
there's
to
no
trust
turf
us.
wars.
The consistent
None.
thread of the cabinet nominees is that you're all change agents. You all came in with a mission, and it is, listen, there has never been a first month of any presidency in the history of the United States of America like the last 30 days.
That's right.
Amen.
And I'll tell you, I have had great joy turning to my Democrat colleagues in the Senate and just deadpanning, well, 3 years and 11 months to go. And they literally start twitching. They have facial tics that they cannot suppress.
Yeah.
But all right, Pam, one of the things that people like about this podcast that we try to do is we try to bring people behind the scenes to actually understand what's going on behind closed doors. So tell us about your first day as Attorney General. You're confirmed, and like day one, when you get sworn in, just walk everyone through what day one of being Attorney General of the United States is like.
You go nonstop, and I jokingly said it felt like 15 years because you're working 7 days a week nonstop. And we're all working with each other, and everything we do, it overlaps, and especially with Department of Justice, especially too with all this money going out, the USAID, all of these agencies, and we're going to be helping all these agencies, but you just hit the ground running, literally, and don't look back. I don't look at what time of day it is. I don't think I've slept in 15 days, but you don't want to. And then when you find out about this human trafficking ring that was just broken up, that's why we're all doing what we're doing. And you just keep going forward. And our directive from our boss is so easy, especially on my end, make America safe. And so you just don't, Senator, you don't even, my hardest thing now is I forget to eat. You forget what time it is, and it's 6 o'clock at night, and why do I have a headache? Because I haven't eaten today. Mm-hmm. But you're going nonstop. And it's not me, it's an entire team. I've got Chad Mizell, I've got Emil, I've got Todd Blanche, thank goodness, coming in, and we've got Kash Patel now, so they better look out.
How nice is it to have a boss by by the name of Donald J. Trump, who just lets you do your job?
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of presidents in the past that have really tried to keep their thumb on people. It seems like he's saying, go. And go get it done and call me when you need me.
Yeah, he has trusted all of us in all of our various capacities and all the different roles we have, whether it's education or agriculture, all the cabinet, labor, all of the different cabinet secretaries, just to go out and do the best we can. And we want to make all of you proud, and we want to fulfill his directive to make our country great. That man sure didn't need that job. He's a good friend of mine. Yep. And I love during my confirmation hearing when they get on me because they say I'm friends with Donald Trump. Yes, I'm very, no, I'm not friends with him. I'm good friends with him, and I'm very proud to work for him.
When you look at weaponization and politicization, part of it is using it to attack your political opponents, and we've seen 4 years of that under Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Another part of it is turning the other way at your political allies and refusing to enforce the law against them. And I think one of the most egregious examples we've seen over the last 2 years is the rising anti-Semitism on college campuses.
Amen.
The violent protesters and rioters, many of whom are not students, are not affiliated with the universities, and they are threatening students. You look at Columbia University, the Orthodox rabbi there sent out an email to the Jewish students on campus and said, do not come to campus because the university cannot and will not keep you safe. And the Biden Justice Department did nothing. They investigated nobody, they didn't follow the money, they didn't indict anyone, they didn't prosecute anyone, and they did not enforce Title VI of the Civil Rights laws, which say that if you are tolerating harassment on the basis of ethnicity or religion, that you will have your federal funds cut off. How is the Department of Justice different today, and what will your approach be to anti-Semitism and threats of violence directed against Jewish students on campus or any other students on campus.
We have an October 7th task force that we started, and we will protect you. When I was just a citizen, before I had this job, what you said, I'm watching these aren't peaceful protests. We all believe in peaceful protest. I'm sorry, unless you're a liberal and you don't want a parent to quietly pray outside an abortion clinic, or you're a Catholic, or a parent at a school board, they're going to call you a domestic terrorist.
Yeah.
But I'm screaming at my TV watching these violent protests, you know, the last, since October 7th, you're watching this happen, and all of our students deserve to be safe. And first of all, these students who are here on visas, who are threatening our American students need to be kicked out of this country.
Amen. It is refreshingly simple to have an attorney general who has the approach that you're going to follow the law and enforce the law. And that sadly has been missing for the last 4 years.
It's pretty basic, isn't it?
It should not be complicated. Let me ask you, what keeps you up at night? What scares you in the first 2 weeks in this job?
Pretty much everything. I don't sleep at night anymore. Of course, everything we talked about, the drugs, the cartels, maybe I'll get a little sleep tonight based on the arrests that were just made, the children that are being trafficked, things that have been so personal to me since I was a state prosecutor and then since I was state attorney general. Now you just get to help people on a bigger level, which is pretty cool to get to do that. But most recently, it's really been what Elon has been uncovering. And the USAID, the waste at EPA, this money, trillions of dollars, they believe, just being handed out, which is most likely making a round trip ticket and going to terrorist organizations.
And you are on the front line of defending the president and Elon Musk and DOGE and all the effort they're doing, and every day we are seeing Democrat attorneys general and Democrat interest groups suing the president, suing Elon Musk, suing the federal government, and the Department of Justice is on the front lines. And sadly, we're seeing left-wing activist judges, individual district court judges, issuing nationwide injunctions.
Yeah.
Tell us about what it's like defending against those lawsuits, and give us your thoughts on the authority of one radical district judge to try to run the executive branch and issue a nationwide injunction.
2 words: we're winning. But yeah, so you've got one.
I like that answer.
One unelected district judge trying to tell President Trump, who was elected overwhelmingly by the American people, where federal funds can go. We're winning. Even in liberal courts, by the way, Senator, we're winning. And if not, we're going to go all the way to the Supreme Court and keep winning.
Well, Pam, let me say, you and I have been friends a long time. I am thrilled with the job you're doing. I'm thrilled. I was thrilled when the president announced your nomination. And let me say, on behalf of 31 million Texans and Americans across this country, thank you. Thank you for stepping forward and answering the call. Thank you for pouring your heart into defending this nation, into keeping my kids safe, keeping Ben's kids safe, keeping all of our kids safe. And thank you for remaining faithful to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and restoring integrity to the Department of Justice. It is desperately needed, and you're doing a hell of a job.
Thank you, my friend, and thank you for fighting for us every day.
Thank you guys here for being here as well. Don't forget, we do this show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so make sure that subscribe or auto download button. God bless America.
Thank you, my friend. Thank
Subscribe
around, great guests coming up.
Yes! Yes!
Tension is going to escalate.
Oh, my purple!
The White House is behind me.
I'm a faithful watcher of Real America's Voice.
That's where the news is.
Freedom, sovereignty, prosperity. The Patriots for Europe Foundation is on a mission to make Europe great again. Globalist elites have led Europe into a dead-end street. Violent crime has surged because of mass immigration. The Green Deal has put the future of the European economy at risk. Fake NGOs and the massive bureaucracy in Brussels are interfering in our democracies. Patriots must take action. We bring analysis, we organize debates, we build the network of patriots to challenge the woke narrative head on. Patriots for Europe Foundation.
During my second term, we will fight for Alaska like never before.
I'm excited about what we can do with President Trump in the office.
We'll work together to provide affordable energy to Alaska and allies all over the world.
More investment, more certainty, production, more exploration.
Thank you to everyone in Alaska, and thank you to your great governor. I look forward to a long and enduring future relationship. Drill, baby, drill.
Hey, we have a great group of sponsors down at CPAC Central. Make sure you go down there, get all the merchandise you need, see all the companies that are fighting the woke crap in the country, hear from our breakout panelists and speakers, hear Steve Bannon, hear everything that's important at CPAC. Get down to CPAC Central today.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the DOGE update. Please welcome Newsmax host, Rob Schmidt.
Hey. Man, that is a big crowd. And they are not here for me. How you guys doing? Nice vibe this year, right? After the best month we've ever had. Nice to see you all. Thanks for coming out. Good to see you. I'm not going to kill any more time. Let's bring out Elon Musk. Second. Hey guys. We've got one more surprise in case this wasn't enough. I'm gonna let Elon do it. Who else is here?
Well, President Milei has a gift for me.
Javier Milei from Argentina. You guys know who that is, right? Why don't we bring him out? Yeah.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
That's perfect.
All right.
I love it. Mr. President, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Nice to meet you. I love it. We love it. We love it.
All right.
They told me to put this right
Where should we put it?
They want it right here.
All right, great.
A little stage prop.
All of you guys too. Thanks, guys.
Have a seat.
So,
that was something.
I am become meme. Yeah, pretty much. I'm living the meme. It's like there's living the dream and there's living the meme, and it's pretty much what's happening, you know.
You're like, I think you're bigger.
I mean, DOGE started out as a meme. Think about it. And now it's real. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
But it's cool.
Let me ask you this. A year ago, if someone had told you you'd be at CPAC and working with the president to absolutely shred the government, the swamp, whatever you want to call it, would you have ever believed that?
No.
No? Me neither.
But it's cool. This is awesome. And I just want to say, you know, thanks for your support. I mean, you guys are, you know. So, I mean, we're you know, trying to get good things done, but also, like, you know, have a good time doing it, and you know, and have like a sense of humor, you know. So, like, I mean, the sort of the left wanted to make comedy illegal, you know. Yeah. Like, you can't make fun of anything. So then it was like, comedy sucks. It's like, nothing's funny. You can't make fun of anything. It's like, legalize comedy. Yeah. Legalize comedy.
And we've shifted the entire culture in just the last few months. The whole culture of this country has shifted dramatically just because of that election.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, freedom of speech. Having fun again. It seems like we should have a good time, you know.
I mean, it's a great time. Everybody in this place is so excited, and I mean, when you talk to conservatives, everybody's happy.
Yeah.
And everybody feels this great sense of relief because we were going to hell for about 4 years. It really felt bad.
Yeah.
Especially toward the end, it felt really bad.
Yeah. I mean, I thought we were sort of heading for a point of no return, really. Yeah. You know, until that's why it was so essential that President Trump win the election, and that there be a Republican majority in the House and Senate, which, thanks to you, that has been accomplished.
Yeah, yeah. I want to ask you, one of the biggest questions I have for you is, you've been, you know, politically, you weren't really on one side or the other for a long time. You're a businessman. A lot of people, they stay away from it. Now you're on a side, and you've chosen a side. You're sitting here in a MAGA hat. What's it, you know, how did that happen? What was the moment
It's like,
you know?
Dark Gothic MAGA.
That's a good one. What was there a specific moment? Was there a moment that it all changed?
Yeah, when I realized I was a fool. But no, I was, I guess, yeah, I mean, I'd say like I was politically neutral for quite a while. You know, leaning a little Democrat. You know.
How do you go from that to this?
Yeah, no,
How does that happen?
Well,
did they go crazy?
Yeah, they did. They did go crazy.
Yeah, they went crazy.
No, I mean that whole cancel culture and you know, it's trying to stop freedom of speech and infringe upon people's personal freedoms. You know, they just want state control of what you say. They want to, you know, take away your guns. And the reason they want to take away your guns, so like there's nothing you do to oppose them. So it's sort of like, you know, I just like we just need to restore the fundamental elements of what made America great, which is freedom and opportunity.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of these freedoms disappearing in the West. It's not just about America. We're all watching Europe and knowing that they're about 50, 100 years ahead of us, right? Because they got an early start. And we're watching how they're devolving. And you're trying to save it from happening here.
No, I mean, in Europe, they put people in prison for memes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, that's insane.
And they're collapsing. I mean, this society it's a collapsing society. It feels that way.
It feels like...
France was nicer 50 years ago than it is today.
Yeah.
I don't think you can question that.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, really... Thanks. I love you too.
They do well.
I mean, I really just wanted to do useful things, like, you know, basically build products, you know, provide products and services that are good, and I wasn't really like that interested in being political. It just like there was at a certain point no choice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, can I ask you on the same side of that coin, what's it like from going neutral to being vilified, largely vilified by the media? Like you're
what? No, really?
I mean, you turn on some of these channels, brother. I mean, they don't. They're angry at you. Does it bother you at all? Does it get to you?
I mean, when they're chanting for my death, I suppose that's a little, you know.
Not good.
But then, like, the song's not even that good, and it's like you call that a death chant? That's nothing. Please.
They've been singing a lot lately.
It's not even good music.
Yeah. There's a lot of music lately. It's not good music either. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that watching what you're doing with DOGE is just people love it. I mean, I've always looked at the government, and I've always looked at the government, and I've seen this big machine and you just know that they waste because they don't care. There's more money coming, they don't care.
Yeah.
You're cutting all this out. Everybody in this country knows that the government is full of waste, fraud, and abuse. And you're doing the work, and the Americans love it. Watching their reaction politically to this, I can't believe how bad they are at responding to this. I don't know how you're gonna sit there and scream and complain because they're cutting waste out of the government and try to win another election. How do you try to win on that?
Well, at this point, I'm not sure how much of the left is even real.
Yeah.
You know.
How much was propped up by our money? You know.
Yeah. Like literally, you see like these sort of fake rallies where there's like hardly any people, and the media will like frame it and like get all 6 people, in the frame, but there's like nobody else is there. Like just it doesn't have popular support. But then you learn that like there's hundreds of billions of dollars going to these so-called NGOs. And it's your tax dollars that are funding things that are fundamentally anti-American.
And they're propping up their narrative.
Yes.
A lot of that government money has been propping up a left that I don't think is as strong as they made it seem.
In fact, a massive amount of your tax dollars is going to legacy media companies.
Yes.
Directly from the government.
The government wants to take over media.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, that's why we have X.
Yeah, and
that's why you spent $44 billion. I mean, that's a lot of money.
I mean,
more than it was probably worth. But there was a message.
Freedom is priceless.
Priceless. Yeah. Probably one of the most important investments this country's ever seen. If you got to protect the First Amendment, it's not much more important than that.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of criticism, and people said, well, that proves he's a huge idiot from look, he bought it for whatever, $44 billion, and now it's worth like 8 cents. And
it's not worth 8 cents.
But it was essentially to buy freedom of expression,
Once that's gone, it's all over. It's all over.
Yeah.
Descent into tyranny is really quick after that.
Yeah, I mean, like it's all the sort of federal money going to media companies is what helps explain why the legacy media all says the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, isn't it like it's like weird? Like you put them up where it's like like when
they're mouthpieces for
the state.
For the state.
Yes.
And that's what we've come to know.
Yeah.
It's scary.
And I like that meme where they because they're always saying like threat to our democracy, but if you just replace democracy with bureaucracy, it makes a lot of sense.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Big threat to the bureaucracy.
That's exactly right. Let's talk about these DOGE dividend checks that everybody's talking about this week. And I know you tweeted out that you're gonna. Does everybody want like a $5,000 check in the mail? It sounds kind of good, right? And the best part about it would be knowing where it came from. That's $5,000 that you sent them last year.
Totally. It's money that's taken away from things that are destructive to the country, and from organizations that hate you to you. That's awesome.
Does it seem? I mean, have you talked?
I mean, that's like glorious. That's like
it's the best.
The spoils of battle,
Spoils of battle. I like that. Is there traction on that?
Yeah. So I talked to the president, and he's supportive of that, and so it sounds like that's something we're going to do.
Yep.
So as we're finding savings, that's going to translate directly to reductions in tax. So.
Yeah. I think they fired 6,000 people at the IRS today.
Yeah.
And I think Lutnick said last night that they're talking about shutting down the IRS. And I think it's fair. I think people should realize this is, I mean, the amount of money that we send Washington like 5 or 6 trillion a year. That is such an ungodly amount of money. I mean, what do they, they say like 1 trillion seconds is like 30 years or something like that. I mean, that's how much we send them, and they seem to never have enough. There must be a lot you can cut.
No, absolutely. People ask me, what's the most surprising thing that you've encountered when you go to D.C., when you're in D.C.? And I said, well, the most surprising thing is the scale of the expenditures and actually how easy it is to, when you add caring and competence where it was absent before, you can actually save billions of dollars, sometimes in an hour.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild.
And then they scoff at it and say, oh, a few billion here, there. I mean, the way they're talking about it, you can see they don't care. It's such little money compared to how much they're used to wasting. That's what's really scary.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. But obviously, it just shows that they really lack empathy for the average taxpayer who's working hard, paying taxes, and then they say, oh, $1 million doesn't matter. I'm like, I think it matters a lot to people, So what are you talking about?
I'd like to have it. Let me ask you a question. I know the president fairly well, watched him survive 2 assassination attempts. Had the first one not happened, the second one would have gotten him. It was very, because without those extra guys, they would have never seen that gun poking through the fence at the golf course. I saw the crew that you had.
Isn't it like mind-blowing that this has happened? I mean, it just, and what, by the way, why do we still know nothing about that guy in Butler? What's going on? But Cash is going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, there you go.
By the way,
Confirmed just a couple hours ago, but I saw that the security detail that you had come in is enormous.
Well, it's not that enormous. Maybe it should be bigger. I don't know.
I think you could probably afford it. But I mean, how concerned are you about your safety? I mean, you are a wanted man. Are you nervous?
So, look, I'm open to ideas for improving security, I have to tell you. I don't actually have a death wish, I think. But it's not that easy. I mean, but I have I've had even people like President Bukele from El Salvador who managed to put in prison I don't know, 100,000 murderous thugs. And he was he called me, he's like, I'm worried about your security. I'm like, you're worried about my security? I'm like, what? Okay. That's
I mean, talk about guts to do that down there. I mean,
yeah, totally.
And survive.
I was like, how did you put all those thugs in prison without dying? Because it seems like that would have been not easy,
Well, there's the president has one of his top attorneys is now investigating, I guess, Chuck Schumer for threats against SCOTUS, a congressman on the Democrat side, for saying, basically saying we're going to bring a war to you, like a fight to you. I mean, the rhetoric. You guys are screwing with things that are not supposed to be messed with. And
we're fighting the Matrix.
There's a lot of people that really don't want that to happen.
Yeah, we're fighting the Matrix big time here. But it's got to be done.
Yeah.
And
it certainly does. What's going on with? Tell us about Fort Knox. It's Kentucky. It's a military base. It's a ton of gold, tons and tons and tons of gold.
5,000 tons of gold, or
5,000 tons of gold are there in the ground and this. I mean, it's a very secure thing.
I think we all want to see it.
I'd love to see it.
This is your gold, by the way. It's the public's gold.
Do you think it's not there?
I don't know. But I think
you just want to see it.
Yeah, we want to go see it and just make sure somebody did spray paint some lead or something,
Yeah.
Is this real gold? Fight at the bar,
Didn't dent.
But I think honestly, part of this also is just let's have some fun and like I said, all this gold at Fort Knox, it's the public's gold. It's your gold. So I think you have a right to see it.
You want to take a tour?
Yeah. I think we should have do a tour. And then the president last night was like, I think he's in favor of it. That would be cool. And then it should be a live tour. You can see what's going on. Open the door. What's behind it.
Well, and there's
I think I'd watch that.
Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah.
I mean, what does 5,000 tons of gold look
totally.
like?
What does
How
it
big
look
is
like?
that? Is it the size of this?
It's got to be pretty big,
It's got to be a lot of
Maybe
gold.
there's some other stuff in there, like just walk around, like, I don't know, maybe they got some other stuff in there.
Are you thinking about auditing the Federal Reserve as well, which is obviously
yeah, sure.
Regulates
While
our
we're at it.
economy? I imagine you think the waste has got to be everywhere.
Yeah, no, waste is pretty much everywhere. People ask, like, how can you find waste in DC? I'm like, look, it's like being in a room, and this target, the wall, the roofs, and the floor are all targets. So it's like, you're gonna close your eyes and go shoot in any direction. you can't miss, you know? So it's pretty wild. Like you just push on things a little bit and you save billions of dollars. Like just a little bit, you know? It's wild.
It's scary, isn't it? It's
That's why I say, it really is underrated if you add caring and competence, how much things improve.
Yeah.
And you know, and we just find so many totally crazy things, which, you know, we're sharing with the public. We post everything we learn. You know, just you know, so you can see it. You know.
What do you?
I mean, and like it's like, isn't it like it's totally wild? Like we just did like a check the database on Social Security. Like it says how many alive Americans eligible for Social Security are there? And according to the database, it's over 400 million. And we're like, wait a second.
And how many are getting?
How old are they again?
Yeah.
And then like we found like one person in there is like 360 years old. I'm like, what, do they know Ben Franklin or something?
Before the revolution.
I mean,
yeah.
You know, America didn't exist before that time. Like so.
Yeah, we were colonies.
You know, maybe it's just me, but I think it's a red flag. I don't know.
But are there indications that there were checks going to those people or any of those people?
Well, yeah.
That's, I guess, the question, right? I mean, I get the Social Security Administration is dumb, but are they paying these people? Are they that dumb? I don't know.
A bunch of money is going out from the Social Security Administration, and in fact, from all entitlements programs.
$72 billion in waste in like 7 years. That's $10 billion a year.
Well, I think the
fraudulent payments.
The rough estimate from Government Accountability Office is over $500 billion of fraud a year. $500 billion.
And how long at a time?
Per year.
Per year? On Social Security?
No, on all...
on all government.
On all entitlements.
All entitlements.
All
Okay,
entitlements,
yeah.
It sort of actually makes sense when you look at the thing from a top level and say, like, okay, there's $7 trillion of spending by the government. What percentage do you think is fraudulent? Okay, exactly. Like a conservative estimate of the $7 trillion would be 10%. Conservative.
Probably a little higher than that, yeah.
Exactly.
Feels like a quarter out of every dollar, right?
But if the fraud's only 10% of $7 trillion, you've got $700 billion of fraud.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's like really easy to take advantage of the federal government. It's very easy. So.
Very easy. Look at COVID.
Yes.
Everybody got rich during COVID. I mean, look at all these scammers. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It looks like, in terms of the COVID payments, there was something like $200 billion of COVID payment fraud taken by fraudsters out of the country.
Out of the country, yeah.
That's like I think, listen, if there's going to be fraud, it should at least be domestic.
Yeah.
So, you know. But they managed to get $200 billion out of the country. I'm like, what? Didn't we notice that?
Let me ask you, let's do immigration here for a second. You know, there's this move now that Trump's latest thing is that he's going to cut funding, any kind of money that ends up in the hands of illegal immigrants. So if you're funding these sanctuary cities and states, that's how they thrive, right? They're paying for these hotels. That's all federal money. If you got a hotel in your city, in New York, you got all these hotels full of migrants, that's not state money. That's the feds are covering that. He's going to cut all that. It's really hard to deport 15 million people. And it seems like the move now is, let's see if we, especially at the rate that we're going, it seems like the move now is, let's make it so that they leave on their own. If there's no longer a dole system for them, if they can't get their hands on hotel rooms and money, they're going to go back, especially if there's no work.
Well, I think it's really important for people to understand that the Biden administration sent any possible money that they could if there was money they could send to facilitate and amplify illegal immigration, they sent it. Okay, they took money from FEMA meant for helping Americans in distress and sent that money to luxury hotels for illegal immigrants in New York. That is an outrage.
Yeah.
They actually did that. And not only that, even after the president signed an executive order saying it has to stop, the FEMA, the sort of whatever deep state bureaucrats still pressed send on $80 million last week to go to the Roosevelt Hotel in New York and other places last week. And now they're mad that it got stopped, and they're like trying to sue to have it be restored. It's like the gumption is
You think they're creating a new voter class? Would you think that was the goal when they opened up the borders for 4 years? Create a new voter class, get them citizenship, get them in, green cards, vote.
A lot of these things, like you don't actually have to assume some grand conspiracy. You just need to look at basic incentives.
Benefits.
So if the incentives, fundamentally, if the probability that an illegal is going to vote Democrat at some point, whether it's cheating, but eventually they can become citizens. But if the probability is like 80, 90%, you just look at California, which is supermajority Dem, and then the incentive is to maximize the number of illegals in the country. That is why the Biden administration was pushing to get in as many illegals as possible and spend every dollar possible to get as many, because every one of them is a customer, every one of them is a voter.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing was a giant voter importation scam.
Pretty obvious.
Very obvious. Yeah. And then moreover, then they actually created the CBP1 border app thing, where they were, which is like where they would literally fly people in. It's not like like at the point at which people are being flown in at your expense.
Sending planes.
Like building a
pick people
wall
up,
doesn't
fly
matter.
them over the border.
Yeah, they're literally flying them in.
No other country in the world would do something like this. Nobody is this stupid.
Yeah, and then we found that it was like a $100 million contract given to some guy in London, actually, oddly enough, for the CBP1 app. So they're flying illegals into the swing states.
Yeah.
And if you've got like a margin of victory of maybe 20,000 people, and you fly 200,000 illegals into that state, it's not going to be a swing state for long.
Change the numbers eventually.
Maybe
in 4 or 8 years, you're talking about
It's
perpetual
just a matter
power.
of time.
It's a long game.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So it might take like a year for an asylum seeker or something to get a green card, and then 5 years for the citizenship. It's an investment that is guaranteed to pay off.
Yeah.
Just a question of when.
They all remember who brought them in and who left them here.
Exactly.
Exactly. I want to go back. I want to talk about Biden.
This is a big deal. Like I think a lot of people don't quite appreciate that this was an actual, real scam at scale to tilt the scales of democracy in America.
It's treasonous.
Treason.
Yeah. One more Biden question. I remember when they would do the electric car stuff, they would always try to box you out, even though you have the only electric car anybody wants. You said, I think this week, that you think that Biden left these astronauts up in space because he didn't want to give you an opportunity to save them, make NASA look bad, make the private sector look better, make you look good. You believe that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, of course.
I kind of agree. Why would he want to let you help them come down when you're supporting the president?
I mean, the Biden administration was attacking me next level. I mean, the Department of Justice, or Injustice under the Biden administration, I mean, they were suing SpaceX. They're suing SpaceX for not hiring asylum seekers. And we're like, but it's actually illegal for us to hire asylum seekers because rocket technology is covered under ITAR rules, which means it's an advanced weapons technology.
Yeah.
And so we can only hire permanent residents or or citizens.
Right.
Like so we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. And we sort of like so. How can they sue us for not hiring asylum seekers when it's actually illegal for us to do so? Yeah. But nonetheless, there was a big Department of Justice or Injustice case about this against SpaceX. So obviously it was an antagonistic situation. And those astronauts were supposed to be up there for 8 days, and now they're up there for 8 months. Does that make any sense? And we obviously could have brought them back sooner, but they didn't want anyone who supported President Trump to look good, basically.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
The a lot of them are saying right now that the reason that you want to get into Social Security, that you want to get into all of these different, into Treasury and things like that, is that you're looking for personal information and you're trying to make more money.
Yeah.
I've never met anybody as rich as you that cared less about money in my life. Every time I hear a story about you, you're sleeping on a couch of some other guy in a city that you could buy the entire thing.
Yeah,
I don't think you care about money, do you?
No, actually, no, I mean, listen, like, if I steal some Social Security, I can finally buy nice things.
Yeah.
You know?
And on that same question, they're also talking about you guys are going to end Social Security, you're going to end Medicare, you're going to end these things. I don't imagine that conversation has been had with the president, and that's the plan.
No, in fact, the actions that we're taking with the support of the president and the support of the agencies is what will save Medicare, what will save Social Security.
Yeah.
And because if the country goes insolvent, if all the money is just spent on paying interest on debt, there's no money left for anything.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I'm doing this, is because I was looking at the big picture here, and it's like, man, our debt's getting out of control. The interest payments, the interest on the national debt now exceeds the entire Defense Department budget.
It's $1 trillion a year in
Yes.
interest. Just to carry the money that we owe is $1 trillion a year.
Yes.
That is unbelievable.
And rising rapidly. So like, I mean, a country is no different from a person. Country overspends, country goes bankrupt. Same as a person who overspends goes bankrupt. So it's not like optional to solve these things. It's essential. So
we're going to go bankrupt.
Yes.
Yeah, we are. Couple minutes left here. Russia. There's a huge push from this administration.
Yeah. People like sometimes like
to end this war.
Say like,
yeah.
You know, I'm a bought asset of Putin.
Yeah.
I'm like, he can't afford me.
Yeah. I think you're worth more than Russia.
Think about it.
I like that. So, you're trying to end a war. Ending a war always means you have to compromise, you have to negotiate with an enemy or an adversary. That's just what it is. And right now, they are lambasting the president for trying a different method to a war that they haven't been able to end for 3.5 years or 3 years.
Yeah.
They're saying Trump's blaming Zelensky for the invasion. How do you process all of the negativity toward him for trying to end this war?
Well, first of all, I think we should have empathy for the people dying at the front lines. That's the most important thing. And people have been dying, you know, it's like, how many more years is this supposed to go on?
Yeah.
And imagine if that was your son, your father, you know, what are they dying for?
Yeah.
What exactly are they dying for? That line the line of engagement has barely moved for 2 years.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of people dead in trenches for what? And I'll tell you what for what. It's like for the biggest graft machine that I've ever seen in my life. That's for what. It's unreal. Like the amount of money that is being taken in graft and bribery is disgusting. And so what's actually happening is that those you know, those poor guys are getting sent into a meat grinder for money. That's what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And it needs to stop.
And it seems, Trump is so pragmatic on this. He's just looking at it and he's saying, it's Ukraine, it's not our country, it's not a NATO ally. I just want to see people not dying. I want to see on both sides. Think about how so many young men have died in Ukraine that the army is starting to age out. The military is aging out. You got 40 and 50-year-old guys fighting in a war because there's nobody left that's not killed or maimed in their 20s.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. Think about how many people that is. If you're a humanitarian at all, you just got to end the war. Like, no matter what. Just get it over with.
Yes, they need to stop dying.
Yeah.
And the grift machine's got to stop, you know. So, and I think people, a lot of people out there don't realize, like, the president has a lot of empathy. He really cares, you know. He's a good man. So.
I got one more for you. I've been fascinated by you for a very long time.
Thanks.
I've never seen anybody that can, do so many things at the same time. You've got the rockets, you got the cars. I've always wanted to ask you, what is it like inside your mind? Like, is it just 1,000 miles an hour? I mean, are you?
Yeah.
Is it just not? I mean, does it ever stop? Do you sleep? How much do you sleep? What's? Paint us a picture of inside of the mind of a genius. Like, how do you do all this? Can you answer that question? It's not an easy question. Yeah.
I mean, my mind is a storm.
Yeah.
So, it's a storm. But I mean, let me maybe tell you something. Like, you didn't ask the question, but I think it's worth kind of nonetheless maybe just elaborating on something, which is, you know, I grew up in South Africa, but my morality was informed by America. I read comic books, you know, played Dungeons and Dragons, and I watched American TV shows, and it seemed like America cared about being the good guys, you know, about doing the right thing, and that's actually pretty unusual, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like
in the world, it's very unusual.
Yeah, it's not like actually.
Most countries don't do that.
No, they don't.
No.
And so I was like, yeah, you know, you want to be this good. You want to be on the side of good. You want to care about what's right, and yeah. So that's
yeah,
what I believe in. You know, so.
I gave you a tough one at the end.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's great. That's great. Elon Musk.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I appreciate it.
All right. Hey, guys.
Hello, CPAC. Don't forget to vote in the CPAC straw poll. Your ID is on your badge. Scan the QR code and get your vote in.
I switched.
I switched.
I switched.
I made the switch to Newsmax.
We start this morning in Washington, where all eyes are on the White House. I switched to Newsmax.
Newsmax. Newsmax.
Have you made the switch? You bet I did. My whole family switched.
Everyone is making the switch. I did.
I did.
I switched, and it made all the difference. It made all the difference.
Have you made the switch? You should. Millions are switching to Newsmax. You should too.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MKUltra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
America is under attack.
Our families are being crushed under the politics of a radical agenda. But moms have had enough. We are standing up and we are fighting back.
This is our battle. This battle is every bit as important as the Revolutionary War because we fight for the same thing.
Moms for America is a national movement of moms reclaiming our culture for truth, family, freedom, and the Constitution.
I think Moms for America is exactly on track and is doing the right thing for the future of our country and our children.
Like, Moms for America is going at the heart of the issue.
I want to go on the record and say I'm for moms, I'm for America, and I'm especially for Moms for America.
But I am honored to join Moms for America today as we speak out against the horrific mandates.
With a national network of over 500,000 mothers, Moms for America is one of the fastest growing movements of women in the country.
The most dangerous place in all of nature is between a mama bear and her baby cub.
We are the change. No matter what, no matter where, and no matter how difficult the obstacles are that are facing us and our families, we will not give up and we will not give in.
So if not now, then when? If not you, then who?
Welcome to the Momland Revolution.
Hey there, scan your QR code on your badge so that you can view the agenda, check out our membership circles, and learn more about our centers.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome host of War Room, Steve Bannon.
Yo! What a glorious day! Hold it. How did I draw the card to follow Elon Musk? Come on, man! You bring out the world's wealthiest guy, Superman, I'm supposed to follow it? I'm just a crazy Irishman. This is a glorious day. You know why it's glorious? Kash Patel's director of the FBI. Confirmed by the United States Senate. As was Bobby Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth. Didn't they tell you it couldn't be done? Didn't they? All right there. Didn't the mainstream media say it couldn't be done? None of them, right? It's a glorious day. Mitch McConnell's gone, he retired, right? You did that. Remember on the Ukraine vote, remember that? He broke his pick on that. You delivered that. Just like you delivered Tulsi and Bobby and Pete and Kash. They said Trump wouldn't get any of his cabinet members as key. He got them all. Why? Because of you. Scott Besson today said Elon's group in the first 30 days found $55 billion of waste, fraud, and abuse, right? $55 billion, that's gonna add up to $600, $700, $800 billion. In 1 month, they've done that. And President Trump comes that day, he's so excited, he says, hey, I think we can balance the budget, right? President Trump, hang on for a second. Let's just get it down under $1 trillion. We'll start there. Zelensky's been put in his place, right? Right? And the J6ers are here at CPAC. All of them. From the medium-high security prisons to the U.S. penitentiaries, to the men that got diesel therapy, all of them are here. Right?
They don't like that up there. You don't like the J6s being here. The J6s are here. Hey, and let me tell you something else. I talked to Ambassador Rick Grinnell last night, and the J6ers, I think, the J6 choir is going to play the Kennedy Center for a night in honor of their families. In fact, I got an idea. The night that they play, the J6 choir plays and opens the new with Rick Grinnell and President Trump as chairman. We have the J6 choir, right? And we invite all the families they try to destroy, the J6ers, and they get to sit in the boxes where the elite sit, right? And we take the elite for just one night, and we take them down to the DC Gulag, right? For one night. Think they can handle that? I don't think so either. Game likes game, right? Game knows game, right? I tell you it's game. The gentleman sitting in the White House, Donald J. Trump, it's a glorious day. Days of thunder. Days of thunder and years of lightning. Every day is Christmas Day. Every day you get more executive orders, more executive actions. It's not going to stop. But you know what's the most important thing of all that? It's you. You're here today at CPAC. You represent the tip of the spear of the populist nationalist movement. All of that, from Kash Patel to McConnell leaving, to the J6 being free, right? To Zelensky being put in his place. And Elon just said it right there. It's been nothing but grift. The parents and the kids in Ukraine didn't want him to die. Who wanted him to die? The globalists wanted him to die. Who said stop it? You said stop it. You gave voice to President Trump. Now, why is it so important that all the media's here and the world's here and the Financial Times of London and the New York Times and all these? Why are they all here? They're not here to see me. They can see me every day on Real America's Voice screaming like a madman into a microphone. They can see Rob Schmidt and Elon. Elon's everywhere, right? It's great he did this. He's everywhere, right? J.D. Vance, gave a great speech. And you can see J.D. all the time. President Trump's going to give a magnificent speech on Saturday, is he not? But they get enough of President Trump every day, don't they? Hell yeah. He calls them into the Oval Office. He's signing executive executive orders, and they're sitting there throwing these questions. Ba-boom, ba-boom. He's like a howitzer. Oh, they got enough of President Trump. You know what they're really here for? They're here because of you. They can't defeat what they don't understand. They can't destroy what they don't understand, right? They can't contain what they don't understand. From Riyadh to Beijing to Berlin to the city of London to Buenos Aires, you name it, in every world capital, every hedge fund, every political consultant, all the money, all the power, all the legislation. You know what they want? They want to understand MAGA. You know why? You represent the best of the American people. In your righteous indignation, you rose up. Right? You rose up. How many times I've been doing this? Last 2 or 3 years? What did I tell you last year on this very stage? We're going to win. We're going to win the primary. We're going to win the general election. And Donald Trump's going to return to the White House. And all these guys, all the mainstream media, the fake news, mocked and ridiculed. Trump's not going to win the primary. You were right. Right? You were right. They had, who was it? Nikki Haley? Had Governor, and I like Governor DeSantis' life. Has Governor DeSantis dropped out by then? I don't remember. Well, it was soon thereafter. You had Trump's back. You had Trump's back in those dark days of 2021, did you not? Remember, he went to Mar-a-Lago, and it was like a lion in winter, and they all abandoned him except for you. And the Schlaps had enough guts and courage to taking the CPAC in Orlando and march 47 days after he had gone into exile because, guess what? They stole the 2020 election. Is there any doubt in your mind that they stole the 2020 election? They stole it. And they know they stole it. They thought you were finished. They were going to debank you. They were going to deplatform you. You were nothing but trash and nothing but garbage and nothing but deplorables. Right? You surprised them with Hillary Clinton in 16, and guess what? 74 million, 11 more than we had in 2016 voted when you won the 2020 election. And the reason the J6ers are here and they're patriots is because that was a Fed surrection, totally set up by the FBI, by the Justice Department, by DOGE, all of them. And we're going to show the receipts. We're going to show the receipts. And they thought, Trump's finished, and you're finished. No. I want you to look within yourself right now of that journey. Go back to 2021. Go back to your life. Go back to the anxiety, and man, Trump won, but they stole it. The system's so big, so corrupt, so powerful. Remember that? Back on our heels, right? You didn't quit, just like in any military contest. We got a rally point. We dug the guide on in and said, you know what? Regroup, dust ourselves off, fix bayonets. We're charging again. That is why Kash Patel is the director of the FBI. That is why Bobby Kennedy is the head of HHS. That is why Tulsi Gabbard is a DNI. That is why Pete Hegseth is across the river in the Pentagon. Fix bayonets. Fix bayonets. You're not going to stop. You know why they fear you in Riyadh. You know why they fear you in Beijing. You know why they fear you in Berlin and the city of London, because they know you're not stoppable, right? This time, won almost 80 million votes. 40% of black men in this country came and voted with you and supported you. Majority of Hispanic families voted with you. Every Asian American in this country, come. This is your home is MAGA, right? Everybody from India that's here in the United States as a citizen, come. This is your home, MAGA, right? Make America healthy again. Do it like that. We're going to hard weld Maha to MAGA. You're unstoppable. You're unstoppable, and they know that. You don't think in Riyadh they know that. You don't think in Rome they know that. You don't think in Berlin they know that. The righteous indignation of the American people, just like every patriot grave, just like the Revolution, the Civil War, and World War II, they understand when the American people, with its common sense, isn't what President Trump say, a revolution of common sense, right? It's also a revolution of common decency. The decency, the grit, the determination, the courage of the American people is unparalleled in world history. This is why we have our best and brightest on every battlefield all throughout the world, from the South Pacific to Europe to North Africa. What other nation on earth's ever done that? None. What other people have ever done that? None. Only you. And you rose up, and you said, you know what? Trump is our guy. Is President Trump perfect? No, he's far from perfect. He's an imperfect instrument. But I will tell you, General Washington was an imperfect instrument. Abraham Lincoln was an imperfect instrument. And he's the third. These come along about every 100 years. Leaders that take us in a new direction. And that's what Trump has done. It was divine providence that won 16. And it was divine providence hand that let them steal 2020. Because we had to see how depraved they were. We had to see how demonic they were. We had to see what they were prepared to do to this country. And what did you do? Did you ever falter? No, you did not. Did you ever doubt? No, you did not. Did you ever question? No, you did not. And you know what it brought us? A glorious, glorious, glorious victory. The reason these phonies in the mainstream media, who are nothing but the propaganda department for the ruling class in this world, right? They fear you. They fear you because they understand you're not beatable. You're not beatable. They've had every shot, and right now, and I want people to celebrate and to come together. We're going to do it the next couple of days. But understand the toughest part of this war is ahead of us. I've never promised you anything. I've never promised you sunlit uplands. I said it's ahead of us, maybe decades. But it's times in American history that people have to lay it all down. You're expendable to get to bridge to the other side. You know that. You're not asking for a handout. You're not asking for a pat on the head, right? You're not asking for a thank you. All you're asking for is, where is my musket? Where's my bayonet? And where do I go over the top? The other question, they're all running around, what's the future of MAGA? What's the future in 2028? We ain't worried about 2028. We're worried about today and tomorrow and the next day. That's how we won. We didn't go back in 2021, well, what's going to happen in 2024? No, it's every single day. You report for duty and we get it done. Action, action, action. So media, you don't have to come up and ask me. I'm going to tell you right now. The future of America is MAGA, okay? And the future of MAGA is Donald J. Trump. We want Trump in 28. That's what they can't stand. A man like Trump comes along only once or twice in a country's history, right? We want Trump. 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 God, I love you. Nothing's gonna work them up like that. No. They want to say, oh, Trump's a lame duck, Trump's this, Trump's that, Trump's not around 28. Trump is here. He's the leader of this movement. When they record the history of this age, they ain't gonna remember me or Elon Musk or Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity. They're gonna remember two things: Donald Trump and MAGA, okay? And you know why? You know why they know they can't beat you and why they're so upset? Your agency, your human agency. You did this yourselves. You came, you worked through it. You said, I'm gonna put aside fear. I'm gonna put aside questions of concern. I'm gonna put aside my anxiety of the 2020 election being stolen. I'm gonna get together. We're gonna fight. We're not gonna back off any day. Your agency, your human agency, right? They can come up with all the algorithms in Silicon Valley they want. They can take away half of the economy as far as labor goes. Human agency is what drives this world forward, right? This is the Holy Spirit working through us. Your agency. That's why Trump, General Washington, and Lincoln and Trump, they come along every 100 years. Most nations never have them. We've had 3. He is an instrument of divine providence, right? Of course he is. Look what he's running. Look at what this capital has become. The revolutionary generation never anticipated this imperial capital, right? If they came back today, they would spit on the floor to see what we've allowed to do, what we've allowed to happen, right? With the lords of easy money and the oligarchs. And they would say, hey, what we need is a populist nationalist revolution. And guess what? Donald Trump gave them one, right? It's gonna get so tough, it's gonna get so hard. Are you gonna quit or are you gonna back Trump? Are you prepared to fight? When he made the moral decision to come back from Mar-a-Lago, understand they were gonna put him in prison for 700 years, right? They were going to bankrupt him. They're going to destroy his family. What did he do? He came back in 47 days and said, I'm in. Are you in? Right? When they tried to shoot him, when they tried to assassinate him, and he was on the ground right there, they could have crawled off like any other politician in the world. What did he do? He got up. And what did he say? What did he say? I can't hear you. Are you prepared to fight for Trump? Are you prepared to fight for this republic? Are you prepared to fight for this country? The hardest, toughest days are ahead, folks, but you know what? Riyadh, Berlin, Beijing, Moscow, the city of London, right here. This is not beatable. You can't, the only way we lose is if we quit. The only way we don't have victory if we surrender. The only way that they win is we retreat. And we're not going to retreat. We're not going to surrender. We're not going to quit. Fight, fight, fight. Amen. God bless you. You are amazing. You've honored every patriot in this country, every patriot grave. You've honored them through your agency. This is all you.
For standing up for America's families. With the stroke of a pen, President Trump is shutting down radical gender ideology and racist indoctrination in our schools, protecting children from dangerous, irreversible transgender surgeries, defending the truth that there are only two genders and saving women's sports. They'll do anything to stop President Trump, but he's not backing down, and neither are we.
Who's AARP really watching out for these days? They've made billions partnering with big health insurance corporations while opposing reforms seniors want, like applying big discounts to medicines directly at the pharmacy counter. Instead, AARP supports liberal price-setting schemes, giving politicians, not seniors, control over any so-called Medicare savings with no guarantees. Funds won't be spent on unrelated programs or pad big insurers' profits. If AARP and Congress believe America's seniors aren't watching, think again. Paid for by American Commitment.
During my second term, we will fight for Alaska like never before.
I'm excited about what we can do with President Trump in the office.
We can work together to provide affordable energy to Alaska and allies all over the world.
More investment, more certainty, production, more exploration.
Thank you to everyone in Alaska, and thank you to your great governor. I look forward to a long and enduring future relationship. Drill, baby, drill.
Hey, it's Matt Schlapp with CPAC. You know, we've had a huge problem in this country with election fraud. But at CPAC, that's not a problem. Our only problem is getting each and every one of you to vote. So look at your badge. You have a number on that badge. And get your phone out and vote on all the issues that matter. And my guess is you probably like what Trump's doing as well. And we'll have the results for you very soon.
I actually started quite a while ago in CPAC. And I enjoyed it so much that I came back for a second one, then a third, then I said, what the hell, let's run for president. Matt said, it's like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. He says, you should run for politics. He's the one who said you should run for the presidency of the United States.
It is my honor to introduce to CPAC 2017 our president, Donald Trump.
First of all, I want to thank Matt Schlapp and his very, very incredible wife and boss, Mercedes, who have been fantastic friends and supporters, and so great when I watch them on television defending me. Nobody has a chance. I love this place. Love you people. You never stop fighting for America, and I will never, ever stop fighting for you. We know that there are still more records to be shattered, new summits to be scaled, more triumphs to be realized, and more amazing history just waiting to be written. The American adventure has only just begun. God bless America, and we will see you next year. Thank you very much. You never stop fighting for America, and I will never, ever stop fighting for you.
Everything they said about him has been wrong. I don't know how he does it.
It has always been a battle against Donald Trump.
Puts a very bright light on the two-tiered system of justice that only seems to go after President Trump.
The reason why we want him as president is because he's not stuck in this kind of bureaucratic machination.
He was very clear. If you hit your target, you were golden, and you could work and work and work and do a great job.
He's a very inquisitive person who loves to talk about the economy.
Trump does the same thing in a different medium. He's talking directly to the American people.
That's why Trump is transformational, because he kind of came outside the Republican Party.
He's a great closer. He understands what the most important issues are to voters.
Not only is America a great country, but that we Americans are good people.
Donald Trump stands for everything that's good, everything that we need, what needs to be changed in our society today.
Think about that Trump supporter that was demonized, that was taken down, that was criticized, that was targeted. Think about that person out there. That is the one. They are winning tonight. The American people, they've spoken up tonight.
We just lived through history. We're never going to see anything like this ever again.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome host of the Ben Shapiro Show, Ben Shapiro.
Hey guys, how's it going? Hey, how are you? How's it going, guys? How are y'all? Well, folks, you know, I'm not famous for being a particularly optimistic sort. If you've ever listened to my show, I'd say morosity, depression, that might be a feeling that's come over you once in a while listening to my show where I describe what's going on in the country. But I can safely say I've never felt more optimistic about the United States than I do right now. And that is thanks to President Donald J. Trump. Now, one of the things that's sort of mysterious about President Trump is the fact that he isn't really an ideological conservative. Now, people like me, I grew up in the movement. I grew up reading Thomas Sowell and Friedrich Hayek and reading Russell Kirk. I don't think President Trump has ever sat around reading those people. I don't think he sits around at night and browses Edmund Burke or anything. And so the question is, why is it that this man, who's not truly an ideological conservative, is the most successful conservative president of my lifetime, bar none? It's a real question. And I think to understand that, the thing that we need to understand about President Trump is that more than anything else, and in this era, needed more than anything else, President Trump lives in the world of reality. President Trump has been slandered by the media as somebody who creates fictions of his own and sort of lives within those fictions and says a lot of words that don't always match up with the truth and all that kind of stuff. The reality is that President Trump, in his gut, lives in the real world. Which is why President Trump wins so often, because if you are going to win, you have to acknowledge reality, because reality always wins. And this is what makes President Trump conservative. Conservatism lines up really, really well with reality. The reason that President Trump won the last election cycle is because the Democratic Party, the left, completely disconnected themselves from reality in every possible way. They ran screaming with their hair on fire, their blue hair on fire, away from reality. President Trump embraces reality with both arms. When it comes to the world of economics, for example, President Trump only cares about success. He cares about economic dynamism. He cares about American businesses being able to build and succeed. And he understands that in order for all those things to happen, you have to free American business from the shackle of regulation and government. You have to allow businesses to innovate that you have to allow people to rise and fall on their own merit. Meritocracy has to be valued more than, say, identity politics and DEI. President Trump knows that in his guts because he's a business person. President Trump has had to make payroll. Unlike literally every leader of the Democratic Party over the course of my lifetime, he is not a career politician, which means he's always been answerable to reality. And that means that when he unleashes another businessman, Elon Musk, inside the government and says, go in there with a meat axe and start taking out programs, that is what a businessman would do. If you came into a business as a business person and it was rife with waste, fraud, and abuse, you wouldn't sit around and run a commission on it. You would start firing people. You would go in and you start making changes. You'd start breaking things and moving quickly, and President Trump is doing precisely that. You can see business optimism in the country is skyrocketing specifically because of that. Meanwhile, the Democrats don't know what to do because their cherished blue pipeline, which is what the federal government is. It is a permanent payment program for the left, the federal government. They have permanent institutions that exist outside the government. They take literally trillions of your taxpayer dollars, and then they funnel all that money out to their political allies inside and outside the government. And Donald Trump came in and he broke the pipeline. Why? Because he lives in the world of reality. When we're talking about foreign policy, President Trump lives in the world of reality. When President Trump looks at the situation in Ukraine, he doesn't say, well, you know what, we're not going to set an endpoint. We're not really going to set a goal. We're just going to wing it. We're just going to go along with this for years. He says, listen, here's the reality. The reality is that there is a grinding trench warfare situation in Ukraine. There is very little shot that Ukraine is going to be able to win back Donbass and Crimea. And we don't want Ukraine to actually fall to the Russians, and so we know what an off-ramp looks like. Now it's just a question of how do we get to that off-ramp. That is what a practical person does. That is a person who lives in reality. That's not a person who wants to speak airy-fairy nonsense and nostrums about democracy and tyranny. All that stuff sounds nice, but does it get the job done is the question that President Trump is always asking. Does it get the job done? When it comes to the Middle East, President Trump has completely broken the mold. The sort of ancient wisdom of the State Department, which has been wrong for 80 years in the Middle East, is that the only way that you actually achieve peace in the Middle East is to make the Palestinian issue front and center. President Trump in his first term totally turned that on his head. He ignored it, and peace broke out in the Middle East. President Trump has now thrown onto the table a solution with regard to the Gaza Strip that is breaking people's brains and also happens to be the only plausible solution anyone has proposed in about a century in this particular area. Because it turns out that when you have a population group that literally held today a celebration of dead babies in the Gaza Strip, babies they had murdered in the Gaza Strip, it turns out that a two-state solution in which one of those states is actually run by those people is a really bad idea. And President Trump knows that, and he says it, because he lives in the world of reality. And this is how you chalk up victories. When it comes to China, President Trump is a realist. He understands that China is globally an opponent of the United States, and that we need to stand up to Chinese predations, stealing our IP, buying American land, funneling fentanyl precursors through Mexico. He understands on immigration that a realistic nation cannot have an open border. You cannot have a welfare state and an open border and pretend that that's workable. President Trump understands that. Well, now, all of this sounds commonsensical to all of us, right? Because it is commonsensical. But in Washington, D.C., commonsensical is not the way things have been run. Instead, people have been so wedded, not to victory, not to winning, not to achieving things, but to saying things properly in just the right way to get the right coverage in the New York Times or in the Wall Street Journal or in whatever media outlet they're pandering to, that they never actually think about what wins and what loses. And then there's the matter of the reality of our daily lives. President Trump understands that what most Americans want is not identity politics. What most Americans want is not some bizarre notion about androgyny where men can be women and women can be men, and that we are sort of free-floating sets of feelings existing within the meat suits that we wear around. President Trump understands basic things that the left has completely abandoned and that he was willing to say. Stuff that was uncontroversial, 5 minutes ago, like boys are not girls, right? Like these are controversial statements to make, but President Trump understands that that actually has some pretty deep ramifications when you say things like boys are not girls, such as perhaps men have a role to play that is different from women's role. That does not mean that women shouldn't be in the workplace, obviously, and it doesn't mean that men shouldn't help take care of the kids, but it does mean that men being masculine is a good thing, and it means that women being wives and mothers is a good thing too. And that no country that ignores these basic truths can survive and grow and thrive. President Trump acknowledges and knows that the things that most Americans want, whether they are Hispanics living down on the border of Texas or whether they're white Americans living up on the border of Canada. Those things are basically the same. They want to be able to live in safety, free of crime, with prosperity, being able to hold down a job in a growing, innovative, dynamic economy. They want to be able to go to their church and worship God and share that with their community without the government getting in their way. These are all things that, again, sound so easy. They sound so easy. But the way that President Trump measures whether a thing is true or not is whether it works. And that is why he has been so unbelievably successful. Now, when it comes to us, what can we do? This does say something to the rest of us. You know, I think that I talk for a living, right, which is a really fun way to make a living. But the reality is that people come to me all the time and say, how do I make a difference in politics? And obviously there are things that we all can do, right? I spent the last election cycle campaigning with a variety of Senate candidates and with President Trump. I went out and I did things, but the things that most of us can do, aside from all the normal political fighting that Steve was talking about earlier, which is really important, the thing that is most important is to live a reality-based life, to be a model to our children, to be a model to our community, to build the social fabric that actually makes this country work, to create the businesses that make the country function, to engage in everyday common virtue. Because the truth is, the country is not just built by President Trump. We love President Trump. He's doing an amazing job. He should continue to be healthy and well and continue to succeed day in and day out. We're all praying for him. Okay, but the country also runs because of the people who are doing the everyday things, whose names we don't know. Right? You, people I know, all the people out there who are just living with their families and bringing up their kids in the correct fashion in a country that is growing and thriving, building those building blocks, taking those building blocks and actually making the country work on a day-to-day level. President Trump is clearing the field for you. He's clearing the field for me. Right? The Republicans, I hope, are going to do that. But then it's our job to actually build. And that's what we should be focused on, not just on politics over the next 4 years or 8 years or 20 years. We should be focused on the building because that project, that's the project that never ends. The political fight will always be there. There's no such thing as permanent victory. There will be losses in the future. But the one thing that we can do every single day is continue to build. And thank God, President Trump, the reason I'm optimistic, President Trump has brought us back to a world of reality where that building is possible and we should all build together. Thank you so much. And now, thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you. And now, I want to take the opportunity to welcome out my buddies from the Daily Wire for an episode of Backstage Live.
Clap for Michael. No. It's just
Well, you're a man, so that makes sense.
I know we can drink this delicious 45, 47 whiskey. Can we smoke the Mayflower cigars too, or is that... Washington, D.C. is a little...
What's the worst thing that could happen?
Yeah.
Welcome to CPAC and Backstage Live.
Pass on the booth.
You'll have the whole bottle.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is a show that we do once a month at the Daily Wire. In fact, we're going to do it again on March 4th for the President's Joint Session of Congress, where we get the whole team together and we talk about what's on our mind. And so this will be a little bit different than the other panels that have happened throughout the day because we have to do ad reads. It's okay. It's how we buy the plane tickets to get out here. What I want to talk about, though, first, right out of the gate. Today is 30 days of Donald Trump into his second term. Which means even if you don't like Donald Trump, you're 30 days closer to being the end of Donald Trump.
The Democrats must be thrilled. I don't know if they are.
I want to talk about all the amazing things that have happened in this first 30 days. One of the most dynamic and energetic beginnings of any presidency, certainly in my lifetime. And since we got all of our pals here at CPAC, let's just talk about how great it's been. Michael.
My favorite thing, this is very difficult, because I loved when President Trump Napoleon posted on Twitter and Truth Social. I thought that was great. Loved that. I loved when J.D. Vance gave lectures on Thomistic philosophy to that CBS News lady on television. That was great. But my favorite thing, I think, my actual favorite initiative for the first 30 days has got to be the presidential pardons. I felt politically it was very important for the J6 pardons to go through, but my favorite pardons, though, my absolute favorite, the pro-lifers who were unjustly imprisoned by Joe Biden and the Democrats. They are American heroes. I ran into one of them outside, John Hinshaw. He might be in this room right now. These are American heroes. These are deeply virtuous people. They were trampled on by their government, and Donald Trump rectified a major, major wrong. He deserves a lot of credit for it.
You know, if I were to say my favorite thing from Trump's term, number two, I'll get to number one, but number two.
You only get one.
Well, I got to. My runner-up is Trump at least talking about potentially taking back control of the Panama Canal. That's a little bit of a deep cut, but I think that's an important thing.
That's good.
And Greenland too. Maybe we're taking Canada. We'll see. We got to get rid of move the Canadians somewhere else, because we don't want the Canadians, but we want Canada. We want the land, not so much the people on it. We'll move them to reservations up in the Arctic, and they'll be quite happy. But my actual favorite thing is what I think is basically the end of the trans agenda of gender ideology in this country.
Yeah.
This is. The fight continues because the people that advocate for this butchery and this insanity aren't just going to go away. They're going to find a way to continue victimizing kids, and so the fight will continue in that way. But look, we've got with Donald Trump in just a few weeks, we have banning men from women's sports. We have putting an end to child castration in the hospitals, defining sex as man and woman, and I think that. The legal stuff is really important, but just the bully pulpit, having a person in a position of authority who's willing to say the obvious thing, which is that men are men and women are women, which, by the way, is something that everyone has always known. Every single person in the world has always known that. But for a period of time, a lot of people were afraid to say what they knew to be true because and thanks to Donald Trump, thanks to a lot of people that have been in the fight. But what they needed was someone in a position of power like Donald Trump to say this obvious true thing. And so I think it's the beginning of the end of gender ideology in this country.
Andrew Klavan, you have opinions?
Yeah, by far my favorite thing about the Trump administration has been the absolute decimation and destruction of the mainstream media. It has been like that scene in Game of Thrones where the woman has to walk naked through the streets while people shout shame and throw rotten vegetables at her. Except it's been better because it's been the mainstream media walking naked through the streets. And they've just been reduced, and I knew this the moment—
No one wants to see that, Drew.
the moment the results of the election came in, this kind of blanket of peace passed over me because I realized what had happened, that we'd beaten them. And
that was death, Drew.
That may be death, yeah. But it couldn't have happened without Trump. It couldn't have happened without Trump. But it couldn't have happened without us, too, and all the Joe Rogans and all the podcasters and all the small media that grew up suddenly and exposed them for what they were. And the benefits, the side benefits of this, is it has put a little tiny bit of steel in the Republican Party. These guys,
like this much.
You know, this place that we're in right now is surrounded by media like this steel bubble, I should call it. And they think when the New York Times says something, it's the people talking. They think, oh my gosh, it's in the New York Times, my career will be destroyed. And now they realize it's in the New York Times, a bird is going to crap on it, and no one's going to remember what anybody said.
So far, I've enjoyed this panel very much because we're living up to our sort of reputation at the Daily Wire. Your favorite thing about Trump is us.
Yeah.
And your favorite thing about Trump is your movie.
Yeah.
And Michael's just here for the booze.
That's true. And the cigars. And the Mayflower cigars.
Delicious Mayflower cigars. Ben, the best thing about the first 30?
Well, so by far the best thing that has happened during the first 30 days was that exchange that he had with the Afghan lady reporter, which is one of the great moments in all of media history. And if you haven't seen it, folks, you absolutely should Google it, because it is legitimately one of the funniest things that has ever happened in the history of the media. There's a reporter from Afghanistan who asked President Trump a question in a very thick accent, and he had no idea what she was saying. And he said, "Your voice, it's so beautiful, so melodious, I don't understand a word you're saying. God bless and live long, live in peace." And it's like, wow, he went like full Spock at the end, like it was great. So that was great, just as a moment. And there have been many such wonderful moments, including I don't care, Margaret, right, from the vice president. And there are a bunch of like great memeable moments. And of course, Elon is a walking meme, as you've seen. But in terms of actual policy, I think the most important thing that President Trump has done is he has exposed the reality, which is that the amount of power that has aggregated in the executive branch over the course of time is extraordinary, and it is at the behest of the President of the United States. So for two reasons, this is really important. One, because the Democratic Party established over the course of the last 100-odd years, really since Woodrow Wilson, that the executive branch was going to be the predominant branch of American government, and all power was going to be centralized in it: spending power, regulatory power, all of it. And then they basically said, and Republicans can't touch it. When we run it, we'll run it, and we'll put permanent employees in place so that when you run it, you don't run it. And President Trump came in, and he said, no. You've given all this power to the executive branch. Guess what? Guess who's the president now? It's me. And
long live the king.
And he literally put out an executive order saying, like yesterday, all of you people work for me. And here's your reminder. The executive branch is a branch of government. There is no fourth branch of government that is an unelected bureaucracy, and thus, you work for my agenda. And this is great for a couple of reasons. One, because it means that he's going to be actually able to clean out so much of the rot inside these institutions, and that's what DOGE is in large part. But second, I think it sets up the predicate for, if there is going to be a useful constitutional fight, which I kind of like, then let that fight be about the prerogatives of Congress. Let Congress try to actually go back to the original structure in a fair way, because for too long, Republicans have been playing by the Marcus of Queensberry rules on this stuff, where, as I say, the rules apply when Republicans are in power, and then they stop applying the minute a Democrat